Call council meeting to order tonight. We'll take the roll call, please.
Council members Brown,
Here.
Costello,
Here.
Jamison,
Here.
Knutson, Litz,
Here.
Staggers,
Present.
Anderson,
Here.
Benninga.
Here. We have a quorum present for tonight's meeting. Tonight will be led in the invocation by Dr. Ron Tottingham from the Empire Baptist Temple here in Sioux Falls. After the invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this time, I'd ask everyone to please rise.
Our Heavenly Father, thank you tonight for the honor to be able to be here. Thank you for those who are willing to come out here on Monday nights, every Monday night, and help manage this city. We pray for those that are here tonight who have an interest in this city. Pray most of all for the God of this city, that you would bless this city and bless the people who have to manage the things of this city. And thank you, Father, for all the foresight, all the history that has been given to this city to make it the kind of city that it is. And we pray that you bless tonight in this meeting in a very special way. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's get started with the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Let's move. Is there a second?
Second. Jamison.
Jamison seconded. Further motions or comments on approving the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Brown,
Mr. Mayor, I would, on the consent agenda, I'd like to take item 6 and move it to after 17 on the regular agenda. I'd make that motion.
Okay, the motion is to take 6 and move after the regular agenda. That motion been made. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. Further comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes.
Item number 6 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excuse. That is moved to the behind the last item. So
After item 17.
After item 17, excuse me. Other motions? Not all in favor of approving the consent agenda as amended will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes.
All members present have voted. The consent agenda has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused, as amended. Is there a motion to approve the regular agenda?
So moved.
Litz moves. Is there a second?
Second, Anderson.
Anderson seconds. Further comments? Motions? Seeing none. All in favor of approving the regular agenda will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes.
All members present have voted. The regular agenda has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. This is the time that we set aside, a period of 5 minutes for anyone that wishes to address the council. What we ask is that you give your name and address and come forward if you would like to address the council with public input for 5 minutes. Seeing, okay, Bob.
My name is Bob Sievertson. My home is at 1124 West 20th in this town. I'm a bicycle rider, and when I ride my bicycle in residential areas, I ride in the street. On arterial highways, I ride in the sidewalk with consideration to the pedestrians. On nice days, unlike today, I occasionally ride my bike trail north through the falls and up and have breakfast at Marlin's. And I'll get to the point. You get on Cliff Avenue, and there aren't any sidewalks. There's pedestrian. You can see there's pedestrian traffic because the grass is packed down, and it seems to me that it's a dangerous situation. I'm not talking about bike riders, but for pedestrians. With a foot of snow and snow-packed snows, those people have no place to walk. Now, I understand that when they came into the city, that they weren't, the property owners along that Cliff Avenue weren't assessed. But it seems kind of ridiculous to me that if you get a crack in a seldom used sidewalk in town, you get it fixed. But there's no provision for sidewalks where people walk. And I'm, if you can't assess the property owners, it seems to me probably a good use of public money was to put sidewalks on North Cliff Avenue. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. I'm trying to think. Mark, are you talking on top of Cliff, Bob?
I'm talking from the hill, as a matter of fact, from Rice to Highway 38. I don't think there's any sidewalk.
Didn't we put sidewalks on that new section we put on Chambers Street up the hill? I think where there's sidewalks there.
Well, there aren't any sidewalks.
Yeah. But there might, I don't know, from Rice to, might not be from Rice to Chambers. I don't know. We'll look into that. But where we did the new street going up the hill, I think even all the way to Benson, didn't we? Yeah.
What? Yep.
But I'll look into it, Bob.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've just been meaning to call that to your attention. I
No,
thought
that's
this was a
good.
opportunity.
We'll look into it, but I think we have it. But thanks, Bob. Further, folks that would like to come and 5-minute input. Name and address, please.
My name is Janaka Jada, address 602 South First Avenue. This is for the City Council and especially for the mayor. I would like to know why our city police department can violate the First, Fourth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendment of the state constitution and the federal constitution by coming into someone's home and addressing them about a 911 call that never took place and rough up the person and then go down when you make a complaint. And you go down to get it taken care of, and the police department, when they do their own investigation, find that the police had no fault. Well, wrong person, wrong house, wrong everything. And I still want to know how come this can't be addressed before having to take it to a federal level when you can't address it right here within the house. Secondly, I want to know when you send out the tags, forms, you send out this year cards for you to renew your tags, how many vehicles you had, how much you had, and stuff of this nature on this particular card. But it wasn't enclosed. I want to know if this is a violation of Privacy Act. Thank you.
You mean, Janak, on the, for your license plates?
Yes, sir.
I think that's a county issue you have to talk to. And on the other issue, if, I think we had scheduled a meeting for you to come down and see me, and you were unable to make it, I believe.
No, I came down to your office
Yeah.
four different
Well, no, because we scheduled a meeting. I'll beg to differ with you.
then, but yet and still, the violation of the law is the law.
But- and I asked you to
When
come-
the police
we asked-
officers, the very acts that they're supposed to uphold, they violate, and the city does nothing about it. When I went to every venue that was possible.
And we had to schedule a meeting, and it didn't work out for you evidently to come down. So if you want to schedule another meeting, I mean, I'll be there. So call the office and
I've
we'll-
done
we'll
this to your office 5 times, and then when
But
I
you
finally
didn't-
went to work, went
Wait,
back
wait,
to work,
wait.
then
Time out.
you didn't do it.
Listen, you didn't schedule a meeting. And you scheduled a meeting and you didn't come.
I scheduled 4 meetings
You
prior
didn't
to
come.
that
Don't-
meeting that you're talking about, sir.
And I'll guarantee you I'd be there.
No, you wasn't.
Well, we got a disagreement on that, so if you want to schedule when you come down there, we'll talk about it, because we were ready to talk about it, so don't tell me that.
Yeah, we can
Okay,
talk about
let's,
it, right?
schedule a meeting if you want, and we'll come down and talk about it, so. Do you have
still
anything
a
else to add?
violation of the
I was
Constitution.
there, so don't.
You weren't there.
Others that wish to address the council for a period of 5 minutes, name and address. Seeing no one come forward, we will move into the regular agenda, so let's move to item 7.
Item 7 is a new 2008 retail wine license for Hy-Vee Food Stores Incorporated, Hy-Vee Food Store Number 1, to be operated at 1601 South Sycamore Avenue, with the conditional use permit being approved on 10/1/08. Item 8 is a new 2008 retail wine license for Hy-Vee Food Stores Incorporated, Hy-Vee Food Store Number 4, to be operated at 1900 South Marion Road, with the conditional use permit being approved on 10/1/08. Item 9 is a new 2009 retail wine license for Suburban Lanes Incorporated, Suburban Lanes Players Pub, to be operated at 2621 South Spring Avenue, effective January 1st, 2009. Item 10 is a transfer of a 2008 retail wine license from Karen McParland, A Taste of the Big Apple, 600 North Main Avenue, Suite 110, to A Taste of the Big Apple, LLC, A Taste of the Big Apple, to be operated at 600 North Main Avenue, Suite 110, with the conditional use permit being approved on May 7th, 2008. Item 11 is a transfer of a 2008-2009 retail malt beverage license from Karen McParland, A Taste of the Big Apple, 600 North Main Avenue, Suite 110, to A Taste of the Big Apple, LLC, A Taste of the Big Apple, to be operated at 600 North Main Avenue, Suite 110, with a conditional use permit being approved on May 7th, 2008. Item 12 is a transfer of a 2009 liquor license from Wang Enterprises Incorporated, Kings Mart, 5512 West 41st Street, to HKV Gilbertson Liquor Incorporated, HKV Gilbertson Liquor, to be operated at 5512 West 41st Street, effective January 1st, 2009. Item 13 is a new 2008-2009 packaged malt beverage license for HKV Gilbertson Liquor Incorporated, HKV Gilbertson Liquor, to be operated at 5512 West 41st Street, effective January 1st, 2009. Item 14 is a transfer of a 2008-2009 packaged malt beverage license from Elitania Valencia Mexican Store La Mico Acana, my apologies if I mispronounced it, 2319 West 12th Street, to Maria Luis Lima La Mico Acana, to be operated at 2319 West 12th Street. Item 15 is a special one-day liquor license request for Washington Pavilion Management Incorporated, Washington Pavilion of Arts and Science, 301 South Main Avenue, for the following dates, events in 2009. January 13th for a corporate meeting, June 13th, July 3rd, July 25th, and August 29th for wedding receptions. Item 16 is various retail liquor, packaged liquor, and retail wine license renewals for 2009 to be operated at various locations in the city of Sioux Falls, identified as Exhibit C.
Thank you, Tamara. Lori Hogstad with the City Attorney's Office, representing items 7 through 16. I can answer questions on items 7 through 15 first if you would like, and then we could cover the renewals, which is item 16.
Any questions of Lori on items 7 through 15? Then go ahead, Joe.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve items 7 through 15, please.
Okay, a motion been made to approve items number 7 through 15. Is there a second?
Second, Anderson.
Anderson, second. Got a motion made, second. Anyone else in the audience would like to talk about any items from 7 to 15? Seeing none, is there further council discussion? Not all in favor of approving items 7 through 15 will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
All members present voted. Items 7 through 15 have been approved. 7 yes, 1 excused. Now we're on item 16.
All right, item 16 is Exhibit C, the last group of renewals for 2009. We have retail liquor, packaged liquor, and retail wine. It's a pretty small list this time. I do have 2 more that will be coming through in January that have some special circumstances with them, and we'll cover those in January. On this list, we do not have any that had 2008 underage sales, so that's good news. And I can certainly answer questions on any of these renewals.
Questions of Lori on any of the renewals that we have? Sir, on item 16 renewals. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to address the council on any of the renewals on item 16? Not, is there council discussion or action?
Move for approval, Benninga.
Benninga moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Let's second it. Further comments on the motion to approve? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve item 16 will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 16 has been approved. 7 yes, 1 excused. Now we go to item number 6.
Did you want 6 before 17 or after?
Did you want that before?
I said after 7.
After, you want after? Okay, let's go to 17 then.
Item 17 is deferred action, a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, a major amendment petition number 2008-1001 to Chapter 15.45.070, Plan Development Districts at West 16th Street and 17th Street from Grange Avenue to West Avenue, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised sub-area regulations, and rezoning property at West 16th Street and 17th Street from Grange Avenue to West Avenue from the O General Office, RD, and RS2 residential districts to the Sanford USD Medical Center Plan Development District as amended, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening. I'm Mike Cooper, representing Planning and Building Services. This item has been reviewed by the City Planning Commission, as the agenda states, with a recommendation for approval. The property under consideration tonight consists of about 8 acres of land, and it's located north of 17th Street between West Avenue and Grange Avenue. The proposed use of this property will be for medical uses as well as for residential purposes. The rezoning was initiated by discussions that we've had with Sanford Medical. As they look at further expansion of their campus, they've continued to look at property to the east and to the north. The most recent zoning change that was considered by the City Council some time ago was expanding their campus zoning to the east, south of 18th Street and east of Grange Avenue. And the exhibit that is up on the screen kind of shows those current boundaries. At the time that we considered that expansion, we were working primarily with the property that Sanford either had under contract or that already had acquired. And so we ended up with kind of an odd configuration of boundaries. As we talked about this latest proposal, the staff wanted to maybe look at a different concept of how we might deal with both the hospital expansion and the neighborhood. And so what we looked into was to create more of a squared-off boundary that would include property currently owned by Sanford Medical, as well as property that is still privately owned, primarily residential use property. And based on those discussions during neighborhood meetings and the hearing, what we've tried to emphasize is that any property owner that does not want to be included certainly has the right to be taken out of the rezoning boundaries. Along with that, the proposed zoning that's being requested tonight specifically includes a provision that allows existing residential uses to remain as they are. And during the discussions that we've had with people, a couple of the primary questions that have been raised are, is this zoning going to affect my property values, my property taxes? Is it going to allow Sanford to come in and forcibly take my or buy my property? And what we've tried to convey to all those questions is that no, this zoning will not impact the property values, will not impact the property taxes, and will not allow Sanford to forcibly acquire somebody's property. That's certainly not the intent. The city has a long history since the 1970s, going back in time, of working with both Avera and Sanford, and even to some degree the University of Sioux Falls and Augustana College, those major institutional uses in the older parts of the city as they periodically want to expand their boundaries. And I know that each time we deal with those expansions, there's a lot of concern by the property owners, by existing neighbors, about property values, about traffic, about safety, about what's going to happen to the neighborhood. And so we do the best job that we can to try to address as many of those questions as we can. In this particular case, again, there are 3 property owners since the first reading of the City Council that have come to us and said that we would like to be excluded from the rezoning. And those properties are on West Avenue and then 1412 West 17th Street. And what we've said is that we're not trying to force anybody to be included in this, but we are trying to come up with more of a long-range vision of where the potential expansion might be, just to give the neighborhood, the hospital, and the city a better idea of how to plan for the future. And that's always been our intent. Within the proposed rezoning tonight, with the exclusion of the properties that are up on the screen, based on the information that I have, there are 70 properties included within the rezoning, and of those, 43 are currently owned by Sanford Medical. And again, the rezoning will allow property to be used in the future for medical purposes, but it also provides for existing residential uses to remain as long as they would like to. We have representatives tonight for both Sanford Medical, and I know that there are some people from the neighborhood here tonight that are also wanting to address this issue. One of the other comments that we've heard is that some of the exhibits that are out there show two boundary lines, and if Steve Randall can help us. This is an example of a typical exhibit that we use for all land use items that go to the Planning Commission or to the City Council, and they show a 600-foot buffer around the boundaries of the property being considered or the property that are under the ownership of the petitioner. The purpose of that 600-foot buffer is to primarily for the benefit of the petitioner to identify existing schools, parks, and churches within the area that are by ordinance to be considered for any rezoning or conditional use permit. And I think there's some question by people that this second outermost line shows some kind of a potential future expansion, and that's certainly not the case. Again, that just shows a 600-foot buffer for purposes of identifying existing schools, parks, and churches surrounding the property being considered. Again, we've had, working with the petitioner, there has been neighborhood meetings. The Planning Commission also went through a public hearing. Based on previous expansions that we've done with the hospital and with the neighborhood, we believe that this is a reasonable request to not only allow for the future expansion, but also to protect the existing residential uses within this area that's being considered tonight. And I will be here to answer any other questions either now or later on after some of the other testimony.
Kermit.
Yes, Mike, I guess my primary concern are the 27 properties not owned by Sanford. I think the 27 also includes the 4 that have decided to opt out, is that right?
I believe that the 70 total excludes those, but...
Oh, okay. Okay. So still, I'm concerned about 27 properties that are not owned by Sanford. Do we have written consent from those property owners that they are willing to go ahead with this kind of rezoning?
We do not have written consent from each one, no.
Okay. I guess my concern is to be certain that we have all of them on board. Because, you know, I'm concerned maybe somebody owns some property there and they live out of town and they don't even know what's going on.
Okay.
So once
yeah.
again, my concern is these 27 property owners where, I just want to make sure they are truly giving their consent to
And
this.
what we've tried to do, we do not have letters from each one, but what we've tried to do through the neighborhood meeting, the posting of the property, and the public hearings is to try as best we can to let everybody have an opportunity to decide if they want to be in and out. And a number of them we have talked to by telephone. But I don't have tonight a list of all of those that I can say have signed off on their consent to do this.
Further questions? Kenny?
Mike, as we discussed a little bit in the informational meeting, I guess either yourself or maybe someone from Stanford could explain their policy on, I'm looking at that east side area between Grange and Menlo, where you have, looks like there's 4 properties or maybe a few more than that on that block that haven't been purchased. What happens if someone that's in that block decides they want to sell, haven't been made an offer? How do they approach Stanford? What's their policy about that?
Maybe I can let Sanford representative address that, but what we would do is if additional properties were acquired, then it would be the prerogative of Sanford Medical, just like any other property, to come in and amend the boundaries of their development area, so.
Well, I guess what I'm concerned about here is that I don't want to, I guess, I don't want to say we're spot zoning, but we are in a small way here. We're doing maybe a half a block or, and then the other half of the block, you're changing the entire makeup of that neighborhood.
That's why with this approach that we're suggesting tonight is a different approach going to the north that would be more of an area-wide consideration.
And I do
At the
like
same
that.
time, trying to protect the existing residential neighborhood.
Correct. Do we have someone from Stanford that
Yes.
could answer that for me?
Yes.
Further questions of Mike? Others that wish to address the council on item number 17?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Orland Cheddar. I'm Vice President of Facilities at Sanford Health. If I could come back to your question in just a moment, I'd like to just make some additional comments first. First and foremost, I want to apologize because we made an error a couple of weeks ago in not getting the signs posted on time for this request, which should have been heard on December 1st. There's no excuses. We just simply missed the deadline, and all I can offer you is my personal assurance there was no intent. And during the time that I've been with Sanford Health, which is approaching 7 years, I'm not aware that that's ever happened before. And we have since hardwired a process in place so that it won't happen again. But we do certainly appreciate the fact that you allowed us to move this from December 1st to tonight, which did then allow us to give the neighbors and others adequate time to respond to knowing that the signs were in place. Sioux Falls has developed into a very well-known regional center for health care. And with that, the demand for services that we provide on our campus continues to grow at a very rapid rate. There are a number of reasons why we need to continue to provide additional health care, and it's driven by an aging population, advances in medicine, and the availability of services that just a few years ago were not available. Along with that demand for services, obviously comes the need for expansion of facilities. And a good example of that would be that in early 2009, we will open a 180,000 square foot specialty children's hospital on our campus. We also plan to start construction of a heart and vascular building in 2009 that will add additional square footage as well. The current request that's before you, as you well know and Mr. Cooper articulated, is an effort on our part in conjunction with the planning office to demonstrate what our long-term plans are to the north of our campus. We've worked closely with them to identify 16th Street, or the 800 block. As you know, 16th Street does not go through those 3 blocks, but identifying the 800 block or 16th Street as our intended footprint over time where we would hope to develop. And that, of course, is between the avenues West and Grange. As has already been mentioned, this avoids a zigzagging effect of zoning, as you would see over on the Menlo side of our campus, and provides for cleaner boundaries and, again, identifies for the neighbors and for the community what our intended timeline would be for long-term growth. We did hold a neighborhood meeting on September 22nd. We had approximately 50 people in our auditorium. We shared with those folks the plan for this footprint, where we intend to initially have parking in that area directly north of our Vandemark building. And with an area that's as large as this is, it's possible we may have missed some people with our invitation, We apologize for that, but we certainly hope that because of the posting and the delay in the timing for the posting being up, that people have had opportunity to be aware of this. There were a number of questions that were raised in our neighborhood meeting. I'd like to just highlight just a few of those. The first question that we were asked most repeatedly is, what is our plan for this area? And basically, our plan is to add additional parking. We're planning to do surface parking directly north of 17th Street between Grange and Colville Avenue as early as the spring of 2009. How far do we intend to develop to the north was also asked, and as I've already mentioned, that would be 16th Street or the 800 block. We were asked what would happen if non-owned properties, non-Sanford-owned properties were included in the planned development district. And again, as Mr. Cooper has already articulated, because our planned development district will now include residential as an authorized use, it will eliminate the need for conditional use permits or any other types of permits, as I understand, that might be necessary if residential was not included. Others comments that we are aware of, even since the meeting, is there's been some concern about properties that were removed from the area that we currently own. Many of the structures that we removed this fall were blighted properties in very much disrepair, and many of those properties were beyond the ability for us to even rent them at this point in time, and many of those were removed. We've heard that there are some concerns about the neighborhood becoming unsightly or perhaps even unsafe by the removal of some of those structures. And I would only encourage that you look at our Children's Hospital, which is nearing completion, and the green space in the area that's located directly to the south of it. And in fact, we believe that space to be very beautiful and in fact very safe because of the lighting and the fact that our security teams patrol regularly. There are also questions asked about why don't we just build up instead of building out? Why don't you build parking ramps? And primarily the reason for not building parking ramps in today's economy is the fact that it's approximately 10 times more costly to build a single stall for a car in an upright structure as opposed to building onto the surface. We are very, very fortunate in this community to have the type of health care that's available to all of us as citizens. And with it comes a number of economic and workforce benefits in the community. And we urge you to approve this zoning request tonight in order to help us continue the vision of providing health care for the community and for the patrons that we serve. Now, specifically to the question that was asked about the process of someone who may have an interest, if they have a property that they would like to consider selling, if they are interested in us, they can contact me personally. I'd be happy to connect them with the right people in our organization that would be happy to have a conversation. I can tell you that generally that process begins by us asking for an appraisal on a property and then beginning the discussion and negotiation about whether or not we would have an interest and whether or not they would have an interest in selling. Other questions that I could answer?
Yes. Once again, back to these 27 properties that are not owned by Sanford. Is there a way you can give us an assurance that every one of those property owners concur with being rezoned?
No, I can't give you that assurance.
Further questions? Go ahead, Bob.
Orland, I want to thank you for coming down here tonight.
Sure.
I don't live too far from this. I'm a block outside of this district, and I had experience when I owned my first house. I came back to South Dakota. I was over by a Vera on 18th and 7th, and one day I came by and the house was gone, and it was quite a shock to me. I guess I wanted to take a shower afterwards, but the idea that the hospital, at 10 o'clock at night when my wife and I, if we're sitting around, want to go for a walk, we go down to your campus and walk around because it is beautiful, it's well lit, it's safe, and the sidewalks are there. The trouble with sitting in the city council seat is sometimes I understand both sides of the question, and I've got a lot of calls from a lot of folks in the neighborhood, and some of them I know fairly well. I guess, as I look around, Mr. Cooper answered quite a few of the questions that folks have had quite well about the whether you guys have eminent domain or not, and the property tax values and all that. But Orland, the thing that comes that I derive from most of these folks' comments is, the expansion. I know that eventually you're going to have your research park built down by Interstate 29 and 229, where that
Correct.
goes, and I look forward to that. I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for Sioux Falls to have. But in the future, would some of that land down there be for this type of expansion for, I see the North Center and some other things going up, places that used to be parking and buildings wound up on them. Would some of your expansion eventually wind up down there? Does the hospital anticipate that in their long-range plan?
Well, that's a very good question, and it's probably one that, if we had a crystal ball, we would know, but I can tell you that moving the clinical services away from the mothership hospital is very difficult. We can move, and you may be aware, we already have 3 other facilities within the community that house a number of support services, that house our technical IT departments, our support departments that don't physically have to be on the campus, where the clinical work is being done for patients and for families. And I'll probably use the word unfortunately. I'm not sure that it's unfortunately, but the reality is that this is a 100-plus-year-old institution that started kind of in the heart of the community, and things have changed over the course of the years. If we'd have had the foresight 50 years ago, perhaps, to recognize that an 80-acre parcel or a quarter of land somewhere on the edge of the community might better serve the long-term needs, perhaps that could have been considered. The reality is this is a community hospital still located in the very center of our community. The need for those services and what we provide there, as I mentioned, continues to grow at rapid paces. And in order to accommodate that need for people who come for clinical care, it really needs to be done on that campus. Now, we have, I believe, in our building up in the North Industrial Park area, we have several hundred people that we've moved from the campus to move those parking spaces there and move the work there. We have our Peterson Center located on 57th Street in the southwest corner of the city, where hundreds of jobs are there for IT support, et cetera. We just recently purchased another building in the Delaware area up near the airport. We've moved a number of departments off campus, again, to allow expansion internally as much as possible. But the clinical work that we do and the research area that you have mentioned, that type of work, the research work, can be done remotely. But when it comes to caring for patients and providing hands-on service, our hospital is where it's at. And as a result of that, the growth that we need to continue to provide places for people to come for that care really is at 18th and Grange.
I see the aggregate, with the University of Sioux Falls, Augustana, and your campus growing, is impacting the community. And once again, like I say, I see the benefits of going ahead and having a progressive Sioux Falls and adding on to these facilities, because I believe it enhances our community. But I can't help but understand also when other people, my neighbors and stuff, come up and they just have these questions and concerns, and I just hope that we can somehow work something out to everybody's benefit.
If I might just respond just a bit further, this process of taking a larger area and asking for it to be rezoned is an approach that we believe with the city will be the best for everyone, because it allows people to understand what our long-range plan is, at the same time not moving anyone out of that area that doesn't want to be a part of this. I mean, we have not strong-armed anyone to try to get their properties. We don't take that tactic. If there are people, as you have heard, that don't want to be included in the rezoning, we don't object to that. We do understand, however, that having clear-cut boundaries as opposed to, again, what you see on the east side of our campus certainly makes for a cleaner zoning, a cleaner area, so people do have an idea that this is a boundary where we expect they would like to expand, much like we've done on the West Avenue side. When we rezoned and had the property changed for the Children's Hospital to be built, we agreed that we would not move west of West Avenue. We think that's important for the neighbors in that area to know that, so they can be assured that their properties are going to remain the way they are, and that our expansion is not going to cross that boundary. And in this particular case, we're drawing that same boundary to the north of our campus and saying that 16th Street or the 800 block would be an area that we would continue to develop in the properties that we own. Obviously, if people have homes or structures there that they are not interested in selling, we have no objection to that.
Thank you for addressing my comments and questions.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Yeah, I just have a little technical question here about the property at Menlo, between Menlo and Grange and just south of 18th. That's the Valley Inn. How did they get in your PD?
I don't well, let's see, where's 18th Street? Well, if it's currently in the PDD, it would have been zoned as such previously. I'm not familiar with when that occurred.
Okay.
We do not own that property, as you know.
No, yeah. And also, if I could just ask, so everything north of 17th and west of Grange and east of West and south of 16th, you own all of that that's in yellow and then that tan except for the blue, is that?
No, that is incorrect.
Okay, what do you own?
If that map is current,
Oh, okay.
and I believe it to be very close to current, the dark shaded properties would be properties that we own.
Oh, okay.
Now, that map changes very, very quickly. In fact, it sometimes changes on a weekly basis, but it would be very close to representative. There may even be someone here tonight who could point out that perhaps we've not included a property that we should have, but that would be very close to representative of today. Other questions?
Further questions?
Thank you.
Okay, others that wish to address the council on item number 17? You just ask, come forward, just give your name and address, please. Thank you.
I'm Carol Flower. I live at 1404 South Hawthorne, which is kind of on the little corner of this outer circle, and so I am concerned about this. I would just like to express some feelings that I have about this whole project. And I want to preface this by saying that any project that anybody does, it's always going to have some advantages, it's always going to have disadvantages, and you've got to weigh these issues. I can remember, I grew up in Sioux Falls. I was born in Sioux Falls, but I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan for 25 years. And I can remember coming home to visit my father and mother, and this was at the time that Sioux Valley was starting to acquire properties, and we went over and we watched while they auctioned off the house, they auctioned off separately the garage, they auctioned off the trees and the bushes that could be moved. And we just went from one house to the next, and we thought this was kind of amazing that they did this. My basic feeling is that I don't like to see big business, I don't like to see big organizations with power and money trying to acquire personal property. And this is what all of this neighborhood is. And I can appreciate the fact that there's this small little pocket of individuals who choose to keep their homes and want to keep their homes. And I think that's good that Sanford has agreed to do this. But the reality is this little pocket is going to be surrounded by parking lots or whatever, so that their feeling of neighborhood is really going to be destroyed. And so this is my feeling, that this project of just keep moving out encroaches on into our neighborhoods, where these are long-standing neighborhoods where people have enjoyed living, and this bothers me. When we lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan, home of the University of Michigan, when they wanted to expand, this is a premier university in this country, they didn't take away surrounding properties. They didn't try to influence zoning to do that. They simply went outside the city limits, bought huge pieces of property, and went ahead and developed into a second major part of the campus, which now, of course, is part of town as opposed to being on the outskirts of town. The University of Michigan had a medical facility and the other hospital Ann Arbor was St. Joseph Mercy Hospital, and when they wanted to expand, they didn't destroy neighborhoods, they didn't acquire property surrounding their hospital. They chose to do what I think was probably the smarter thing to do, and that was to go outside the city and, in fact, between two of the major cities in that small area, and they bought acres and acres and acres of land, built a brand-new hospital with plenty of land to expand, plenty of land for parking. And it surprises me that this is not a consideration for this hospital. I think it's important to save neighborhoods, and many of the homes in this area are small homes that if people got the value of their home that is agreed upon, there are very few places that they could go in Sioux Falls and replace their home without going further into debt. And I think this tends to bother me, replacing established neighborhoods when other opportunities and other options are available. Thank you.
Questions of Carol? Thank you very much. Others that wish to address the council on item number 17, come forward. Name and address, please.
Mr. Mayor, now I'm going to speak loud because I can't hear over
Okay.
there.
That's
I'm
very
one
good.
of these ladies. I live at 716 Southwest Avenue. My name is Esther Schledweiler. My husband and I bought our little home in 1962. We raised 3 children there, and now I'm alone. And I intend to stay in my house, but I don't want to be living in my house like the lady up in 900 block with a parking lot all around me, because I like neighbors. And these homes are not dumps. I don't know what area that man was talking about, but you come out and check our block, 700 block of Southwest, all around, very well-kept homes. And I'm wondering where the outrage is when these beautiful, well-constructed homes are demolished and all that stuff taken to the dump or wherever it goes. And if Sanford's motto is improving humankind, why not start in the neighborhoods around the hospital? And then I hear there's 600 homeless little children in Sioux Falls, and these houses are affordable. And my understanding is when they go to sell them, they don't tell that this is encroaching on us. So people move in our neighborhood, buy homes, and don't know this is happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Esther. Other questions? Others that wish to address the council? Name and address, please.
My name's Nick Sershin. I live at 710 South Lake Avenue, so just north of the planned Sanford development. The zoning director talked about property values not going down, and I'm not sure anybody could look me in the eye and say, you being 3 doors down from a parking lot is not going to affect your home value. My wife and I actually today are celebrating our 1-year anniversary, but we wanted to be here to say that location, location, location in real estate is what they talk about. And we've had our home for sale for 9 months and have had a lot of people have concern about the hospital's growth to the north and wondering if this house would be directly next to a parking lot and how that would affect them as they look to the future with their children. So it's just a neighborhood concern of living next to a parking lot, and that's as when we bought our house 2 years ago. I'm not sure the plans were there for Sanford to expand that way, and it's just a concern I wanted to share with you guys before you make your vote. Thank you.
Questions of Nick? Thank you, Nick, and congratulations. Kenny?
I have a question, sir. You said your property is within this?
No, it's not.
It's just outside of it?
It's just outside of.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, and congratulations. Others that wish to address the council?
Diane K. Hoovey, 812 Southwest Avenue. I now live right behind the Ronald McDonald House. Our properties are all bought up from my house to the neighbors north of me. The HUD house is still left open. The one in the block is gone. I was told at the time when this lady named Melissa Reagan, the real estate manager, came to my house, and yes, they do solicit your properties. I was told they don't solicit your properties. She came to my house, and she informed me that there would be no expansion probably beyond 812 Southwest Avenue. If it did occur, it was going to be a very, very long time. That property is already taken up by Sanford. Those neighbors will be moved out. I was not aware of that. I was never informed of that, nor was I ever informed of the September 22nd meeting that they had. The only time I was allowed to know what was going on is when Sarah put this flyer in my door. Nobody told me, nobody from the city council, nobody from Sanford, that all of a sudden we're going to be rezoned. Now, what did that mean to be rezoned? What's institutional zoning mean? It means that if I wasn't here tonight, and if I hadn't sent my letter in, and if I hadn't called the city planning, my house would have been institutionally zoned, not by my permission, just done to me by each one of your votes that you do tonight. Those 27 homes may not know what they've just walked into that are pending out there. And what does institutionally zoned to me mean? Well, can I sell it to anybody? Can I build on and add? Well, I was told I was grandfathered. Well, what does grandfathered mean? When I sell it, can I sell it to anybody, or do I have to sell it then to Sanford and Sanford alone? No, I can sell it to anybody I want, but I wonder what they get when they buy that property. Do they get that grandfathering clause that they can still be a residential property? If I hadn't wrote that letter, and if I hadn't called and said, I want to stay as a residential property, would we have lost that in that property? This is not a commodity that you people can re-go get after it's gone. Once it's gone forever. Your inner city is gone. People who care about your community, that have lived in these neighborhoods for years. Is affordable housing. Where can I live for under $500 a month for my mortgage payments in this town? When they say they pay fair and square value for your home, they don't give you enough money to move. They don't give you enough money to do closing costs. So you're going to pay more to live somewhere else. In 5.5 years, we are done with this mortgage. And so be it. I don't want another mortgage in my life. But I probably will end up with one if I leave my house. Now, do I want to be around a parking lot? Of course not. No, nobody does. But these people don't use it for parking lots. I've been watching them for 23 years, taking over communities and neighborhoods. They use parking lots as a way to get the land. And once they have it, after they got everybody out, they push that parking lot down, and that's why they don't put up a towered parking lot, because it costs more to put one up and then shove it down. Because then they'll bust up that pavement, and they're going to put a building there of some sort, of some kind. Now, when I said this is what I want for my property, I was told we don't have that kind of money. But we partied on $5 million, people. We partied on $5 million. But we don't have that kind of money that you are asking for your home. What are you people doing? Allowing the little people to get stomped on so big business can expand? I had to relocate squirrels because they were tearing the stuffing out of my cushions of my property, of my patio stuff. Why can't we just relocate Sanford? Why can't we show them a cornfield and say, here, build? $5 million would have bought a nice section of land out there and made some farmer quite happy with it. Mayor Munson, you know that we've talked about homeless people and the cost of living in this town, and how it's hard when you don't have, and you've got to have a place to live. You're taking out our place to live. That's all we've got. And once it's gone, there's nothing left. So if you people tonight pass one more institutional zoning, especially like Kermit Staggett says, what about those 27 people that don't know? If I hadn't been cued in by my neighbors, I would not have known. Can you answer the question? Does that grandfather clause go to the next property owner I would sell that to? Or is it gone?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify, Diane, you mentioned the first time you became aware of your property possibly going to be rezoned was that yellow letter from Sarah Alexander?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was not notified of the September 22nd meeting. I was never notified of what institutional zoning was. I was never told how to keep myself out of being zoned that. I had to find that information out on my own and do my own homework. A lot of people don't have time to mess around with this, and a lot of people don't know what's happening, and when it's done, then what? Can anybody answer the grandfather clause? When I sell that property,
Excuse me, Dan, we'll have Mike Cooper, Director of Planning, that he'll step up.
thank you. I just want to say thank you for your time. If you pass one more zone, shame on you. If we let you pass one more after tonight, shame on us as neighbors.
Again, just to repeat what I had said earlier tonight, this rezoning that's being proposed tonight does include residential uses as an allowed use. So anybody that's currently using their property for residential purposes can continue to do so. They can add on, they can make improvements to the property. It doesn't change anything as far as the allowable residential properties. If they sell it to another person, that would also provide for that other property owner to continue to use it for residential. It doesn't change.
Yeah, Mike, if, okay, a PD then, you don't have to worry about conditional use permits. Okay, now, let's suppose that we have some of the private property, residential property, let's suppose it's in the PD.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have to ask for any conditional use permit if they want to go do something with their own?
No, they do not.
They don't have to?
Nope.
Okay.
Unless it's something like a daycare or,
They would have to then?
well, they do now. Any existing residential,
No, but I mean, okay, Sanford, okay, with their PD, do they have to ask for a conditional use permit for a daycare center?
they would have to go through another hearing for a final development plan, yes, for any construction on their property.
So the
For medical use.
So I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, would a private property owner in a PD be, are they being really treated the same way
Yes.
as Sanford would
Okay.
when it comes to conditional use? I don't,
I'm not sure I understand your question, but I
Okay,
want to make sure I do
okay,
before I answer
right.
it.
Okay, we have, because of a PD, it's more loose. Is that, well, it's
No.
not maybe the best way to say it, but there's more flexibility allowed within a PD.
The plan development zoning that's being proposed tonight would add to the existing residential uses that are allowed, the medical uses. The Sanford medical uses would be allowed on that property that's being considered tonight. But before the hospital could build, they would have to go through another public hearing. It's called a final development plan. And that's just been a standard procedure under the plan development zoning since we had it in the 1980s. A residential property owner, under this plan development, can continue to use it for residential purposes.
Right, but when it comes to a conditional use permit,
There are no conditional use permits within the plan development district.
oh, I'm sorry, I guess that's what I thought I heard
Yep.
Mr. Cheddar say. Well,
Yeah, maybe you can give me a specific example of what you're trying to.
Well, once
Get
again,
across.
the point I'm trying to make is with the PD, you just simply have more flexibility to do things within the PD.
I would say a better way to.
Now, Sanford would have more flexibility, okay?
Yeah, it allows
So-
additional uses within that area.
Yes, and so would that also apply to the private property owner within the PD that has a residence? They would also have that additional flexibility to do whatever with their property, as Sanford would?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Mhm. Okay, I think we got through that one.
Thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item number 17, name and address, please.
I was just wondering, this is 812 Southwest Avenue, again, Diane Hoovy, and do they have to have a permit or anything, anything to build those parking lots or put those in? Do they have to have one of those to get it there? Because they seem to just put them in and then shove people out. They'd have to have one of those constitutional things to do that?
Mike, do you want to answer that?
the plan development zoning that's being proposed tonight, just as the existing plan development zoning, which is in the gray area, when the hospital chooses to build, whether it's a parking lot or a structure, they do have to get permits and they do have to go through a review process.
Thank you. Others that wish to address the council for a period of 5 minutes, name and address, please.
My name is Amy Tauser. I live at 816 Southwest Avenue. I've lived in my property for 11 years, and I also did not know about this zoning until this yellow sheet went around, and I was not notified of the September 22nd meeting. But my frustration as far as, I checked with my financial advisor / lawyer, and he advised me I did opt out to stay residential, but he said if you ever want to go refinance or, do some building at your house, he says you come across the part of being zoned institutionalized, and he says it's harder to get, a loan or something like that, or get refinancing for your house or your property when you're not residential. So, but that's just, I wanted to let other people know as far as in my neighborhood, as far as the zoning. But that's the frustrating part, is that you don't know that you're being zoned institutional, or like Diane said, I live right next to her, what institutional zoning actually means. So, and I guess I'm frustrated. I've lived in my house 11 years. I'm a single woman, not married, and it's just, it's frustrating just knowing that Sanford can come in and just, buy up all this property. And there again, I love my neighbors, and I don't want to be surrounded by a parking lot also. So I just wish they would go out, expand, out on 229 or, wherever out outside. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Others that wish, excuse me, Edie. Kermit?
Yeah, just to clarify, you were not aware of what was going to be happening until when?
That yellow
The
sheet
yellow
paper got
sheet.
circulated by Sarah.
Okay.
I had no idea, so.
Okay. And then you are going to be opting out, though?
I already did. I sent
Okay,
one.
you already
Yep.
signed to opt
Yep.
out. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
Not for you, ma'am, just in general here. I was wondering if there seems to be a lot of talk about maybe the idea that the hospital could move out of town, or essentially out in a field somewhere and start over. I was just wondering if somebody from Sanford really could address that issue and why they actually have a hospital where it is, and just how valuable that is to have it near the center of town versus out on an edge of town, just so we can kind of clarify the value of having you exactly where you're at.
Again, Orland Cheddar, Sanford Health. I probably will just say what I said earlier. The hospital was developed there many, many years ago. In order to move it today, it would cost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to move it. It's just not possible for us to do that, and especially in the current economic times. The hospital serves neighborhoods. It serves the people that are surrounded by our campuses. The idea of being able to just relocate that would take probably dozens of years, and as I mentioned, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's just simply not an option.
There's a delicate dance here with your neighbors that is tough. I know you guys are trying to grow, provide more services for the city and all of us, but there's a constant rub, I think, that's going to always occur with you guys expanding and the neighbors who are trying to live in their homes, essentially. I mean, do you have any, I know you talked about your expansion lines. Do you have anything else out there that could limit you from growing any further? I mean, can you really define your lines better for us?
Well, we're asked continually what our expansion plans might look like, and I'm sure the council is aware of the fact that we have an agreement to purchase the NABS property, or the property south of our campus, where we expect there will be additional growth of our campus to the south, probably down to the neighborhood of 26th Street, again between roughly Lake or West Avenue and Grange Avenue. As you go east of there, south of 22nd Street, as you know, the University of Sioux Falls is located there, so obviously that's not an option. Beyond that, I'm certainly not prepared to say where our growth might take us, but again, we have established a boundary of West Avenue. In this discussion and this request, we're attempting to establish a north boundary of 16th Street or the 800 block. We do not have any intention of building or growing to the north of 18th Street to the east of Grange Avenue. Seeing if I've drawn the boundaries in my mind now, but the most likely expansion that you would see following this request would be as we develop the NABS property south of our campus, south of 22nd Street currently. I think there was a...
Mr. Cheddar, in listening to the public, it sounds like there's a recurring problem with notice to your neighbors. One, how has that happened? And two, what can you do in the future to help resolve that?
Well, we've relied on sending letters by mail, which is not always accurate because people move in and out, and we understand that. And as I listened to our neighbors tonight, the fact that they didn't receive notice is frustrating not only to them but certainly to us. I think in future situations, we simply have to make more effort to go door to door and make sure that whoever that resident is getting information. Frankly, it's obvious in listening to neighbors that posting signs for the Planning Commission meeting, which happened a little over a month ago, and also the meeting tonight, is just not adequate to notify neighbors. We have no intentions of trying to hide this from anyone. I'm sorry that people didn't get notification, and I think as we look forward to doing this in the future, if there are other zoning requests, we probably will host more than one neighborhood meeting. One is required, as you know. I think there's enough questions and enough information that people need about this event or these types of events that perhaps hosting several neighborhood meetings and allowing people to match their schedules against the time that we might pick for a neighborhood meeting would be a better opportunity for them. And again, back to what I said a moment ago, we just have to go door to door and knock on doors till we make sure people have that information.
Thank you.
Pat?
I have two comments. One is that, in addition to probably being impractical to relocate the hospital, I imagine that response times in emergency situations would be drastically increased for the central part of the city if that were to happen. But I'm curious on your boundary. I imagine a lot of homeowners that are across the street from you are probably impacted quite a bit. Are you purchasing up homes outside of that boundary if a resident wanted to move out?
Obviously, there would be some reasonable distance that would impact our decision to purchase or not purchase. We have indeed, and I think if you look at the map that's being displayed now, you can see the black line at the top of the map, which represents what would be 16th Street or the 800 block. And I believe there's already two properties that border that. One that is, if you can just circle that one there. That would indicate a property that's actually beyond the boundary that we're interested in developing. But in that particular case, we have purchased that structure. Outside of the boundaries, again, we weigh those decisions based on whether it appears to have value to us in terms of potential growth and also the circumstances that are being faced by the person that owns that property, whether it's an appropriate business decision as well as a growth decision for us to purchase additional properties.
Further questions, Lauren? Others that wish? Okay, Greg.
I like where Pat was kind of going with that line. That line that's on the map there for 16th Street, kind of an imaginary line. I like the idea of maybe the idea you could consider the idea of buying almost like a little buffer, if you will, around the homes that you're going to go up to 16th Street. But if you could buy just a few more homes past it, the people who are really probably upset the most are going to be the ones who are going to eventually live next to a vacant parking lot, and you'll have no intention of ever coming across that street. But if you bought, say, 2 or 3 homes that buffered that, I think the neighbors then who live behind that buffer zone would be shielded by those that parking lot and give you guys a little breathing room here on this issue and really think you could be a better neighbor that way, if it's possible. Maybe that's something to consider in your business plan.
It certainly is something to consider in our business plan and something that we already do. We own houses west of West Avenue, for example, without intentions of developing west of West Avenue. And as you look at this map that's being displayed, you see there's a number of properties around that city park that's located on, I believe it's 21st Street, if I'm not mistaken. There's a number of properties around that structure that we own, again, without any current plan to develop that, but again, as that buffer that you've mentioned. The concern, of course, is we've heard from neighbors, and not only in our neighborhood meeting, but again tonight, there's a number of people who simply don't want to sell their properties. And so we have a willingness, if there's a willingness to sell, but if there are people who are in a position where they've lived in a home for a number of years, and many of them for a long period of time, that certainly is their right to stay there, and we respect that.
Further questions? Okay, thank you, Warren. Others that wish to address the council? Name and address, please.
My name is Sarah Alexander, and I live at 817 Menlo. And I just want to talk a little bit about the process, the different processes involved here. First of all, is the Sanford process, and as it has already been so well spoken, basically the process is Sanford buys properties and has a whole lot of properties, rents them out. A lot of them actually aren't occupied. As I walk around the neighborhood, around this perimeter, and then it starts to look crappy, and people feel like the neighborhood is going down, and people decide to leave and do sell to Sanford, and then all of a sudden they have a chunk, and then, of course, then because they own the property, it can become institutional. And I guess my feeling is, as someone so beautifully spoke before, why is the city allowing an institution to just buy up properties wherever they can and become part of the hospital? I mean, yes, this is Sanford's partly responsibility, but isn't it the city's responsibility too, to a certain extent, to protect what's neighborhood and what's institutional? I just feel that it is something that we as a city need to take into consideration and have. And then to also speak to the process, the city's process, I mean, perhaps it is in Sanford's area of responsibility to let the neighbors know, but I mean, I'm astounded that the city is asking residents a legal question of basically, do they want it to be residential or do they want it to be institutional zoning, and nobody knows what this means, and they're expected, they don't get a single letter about it, they don't get anything to know what it is, and are expected to write in to say, well, I wanted this or I wanted that, and people have to consult their own lawyers to figure it out. I mean, and they don't even want to be in this block. This is just forced upon them. So it's partly Sanford's fault, but we as a city need to have a little different processes going on here. And the second thing I just want to say quickly is it is in Sanford's best interest and the neighborhood's best interest that it's a strong neighborhood. It's not a poor neighborhood that nobody cares about anything. It's the best if we care about our homes and our neighborhood, and we care about the institution cares about us, and we all keep a nice place, because you don't want people coming in from out of town and feeling in an unsafe neighborhood. That's not good for Sanford, and obviously it's not good for us, and it's not good for the city. So we want to keep this neighborhood strong, and we want to have a good relationship. Now, I want to say that a lot of people did not feel they could come forward because they work for this Sanford. And, they feel in an awkward position of they own a home and they work for Sanford. And they probably walk to work and they don't take up a parking space. So, these people are really caught in a bind. And I think there's a lot of people that have good relationships, long-term relationships with this hospital, and would like to keep it that way. They don't hate Sanford, but they do want to be able to maintain their neighborhood. And I just think that issue needs to be acknowledged. These are not people who hate the hospital. I think that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Questions?
I'm sorry, I have a question for Mike. I have a question for Mike.
Oh, for Mike.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Mike,
Yes.
can you explain the difference between institutional and planned development? Because there's a lot of reference to institutional, and this is a planned development.
Yeah, the institutional zone is one of our, what I'll call traditional zoning districts that would be, that would specify certain types of permitted uses. It would have conditional uses. And with the planned development, it provides more of an opportunity to develop, particularly in this case, of a campus plan that identifies what uses are allowed, whether it's medical, in this case, medical and residential. And then any development within that planned development has to go through a final development plan public hearing before any building permits can be approved. So it's a way of developing, I guess, to Councilor Stager's comment about more flexibility, but more of a custom-made zoning plan for a particular area of the city.
Another question I have is, the signs that are posted, can you tell me where they would have been posted on this map?
Yeah, by ordinance, they have to be posted on the four corners of the property, so.
So not on every individual
No,
property,
not
just
in-
on the...
Right, yeah.
That's a pretty broad area.
Well, in this case, it's unusual because it does cover quite a bit of property, and we also knew that Sanford was required to have a public meeting, and that we tried to work with them to get all the addresses that were within the affected area. But yes, we always seem to miss somebody whenever it's a large area like this.
Thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item number 17, name and address, please.
Janaka Jada, 602 South First Avenue. I would wish that the city council would earnestly listen to the petitions of the people of the city, because large conglomerates, we have two large hospitals, which I know we need here in this time, because 2/3 of the United States population about to turn baby boomers, and we're going to need a lot of medical help. But before the hospitals were, the people were. It's like the lady I heard her speaking about her home house, that she's purchased. Well, that's what drew me here to Sioux Falls instead of Vermont. I was going to live in Millbury, but I chose Sioux Falls over Millbury, Vermont, because of the mannerisms of the people and the old traditions that's Middle America. I was looking for this Bible Belt place to live, where the people cared about the people. But in this economic time, seemed like the large corporations, which Stanford says that it too is a campus, keep on like a school, which is part of it. And I would hate for it to become like UCLA, USC, or the Stanford out in California, from which I came. Please, I'm begging you, as a person that lives here in this city and has dwelt in my house for 10 years, listen to the people. We make up the community. We're the same government that's for the people, by the people, that put you people in office to hear our pleas, not just big business. Because I would love for years from now to see my great-great-grandchild or whatever, if God allowed me to live that long, to keep my home house and not have a company because it's a large conglomerate come and take it over.
Questions? Thank you. Others that wish to address council, name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Bretta Bullion, and I live at 820 South Glendale Avenue, not in the little circle, but in the outer circle. And I just want somebody to clarify that that outer circle is not going to be included anytime soon. I didn't quite get that earlier when you were talking. I bought my house about 8 years ago. I'm a single mom. It's where I could afford to live with a payment that I could afford. I saved for 8 years to put a new landscape in my backyard, and this year I plan on putting a garage on my house, and I don't want to do all that, spend all that money if somebody's going to come in and pay me little bit for my house. So I'd like to know if there's expansion plan past that in the next 5 years.
Mike, you want to address that?
Anybody tell me that, and then I have another question. Sorry.
Again, the purpose of showing that outer boundary line is on all items that go to the Planning Commission and that may go to the City Council. It identifies what we call the 600-foot buffer. The purpose of that buffer is to identify schools, churches, and parks that are adjacent to the area being considered for a zoning change or for a conditional use permit.
Okay, does,
I have one other question. I did call Sanford back in the spring and to find out if they were planning, because I had planned to do my landscape this past summer, which I did, and I just wanted to find out if there was any kind of expansion, and I was told no. And that was in the spring, I believe it was in March, and I believe I spoke to Melissa, the person that she might have talked to. And I was told no, that nothing was going on, they had nothing planned for the west or north, that they were all going east. And of course, obviously, that's not true, because this is going on here. So what we're saying tonight, that this isn't included, but are we going to be talking a year from now about that being included? You know, I don't know. So that's all I have to say.
questions? Thank you. Others that wish to address the council, name and address, please.
Paula Johnson, 1409 South Williams. I don't live within the area of the hospital directly, but I can tell you what their work schedule is because I know by the traffic. I know by the increased traffic. I've lived in the street for 8 years now. And I can also tell you how much trash in the street has increased. And so these are all the initial phases of growth and what's going on. I've lived all over the country. I've seen it happen everywhere else. Prior to this, I lived in across the street from Augustana on Grange. I can also tell you from there what the work schedules are of the hospital, to the point where in the summers where we didn't have our windows open because there was that much traffic. So we're not talking about the worst cases of people who are having to move to lose their houses, but there's also some peripheral issues that are going along with this, and I think it has to do with quality of life in the neighborhood. As far as the lovely landscaping that they're doing, the living across the street, then from all of this, if you get to keep your house, then you have this lovely dusk to dawn parking lot lighting in your house all the time, which is something that I'm sure everybody would like to live across from. And as far as the comment that there is no decline in property values, I find that hard to believe when there's 1, 2, or 3 houses and you're surrounded by a parking lot. Who's going to go and buy into that unless you can rezone it and put a business right there in the middle of the parking lot or something? The fact of the matter is that people are forced out after the first house is sold. Somebody's in there and they think they're going to make a lot of money, and once the first house goes, then they start eating away one by one. This past fall, I was involved in a campaign, and I literally went door to door, knocking on doors in this neighborhood, all around there, clear down. People are angry. People are very, very upset. They're scared. They've put a lot of money into their house. They have remodeled their house, and if they're forced into moving out, then they're never going to get a house like this again. They're not going to be able to buy a house that's an equivalent to that. While I was going door to door, what I also heard about, and there was some discussion just a few minutes ago about the seminary, but there's also discussion of whether Jefferson Elementary is going to go to Sanford also. So I think what we're looking at is an area that's going to be some mile in distance going north and south, and maybe a half to 2/3 of a mile going east and west. My question again is, in central Sioux Falls, what is Sioux Falls becoming? What is the quality of life? My other issue is that I'm concerned about, other than above, that within maybe a couple of years I'm going to see this blue neon light shining through the trees in front of my house as it encroaches on me also. I think we're losing affordable housing in Sioux Falls. People cannot afford the housing that goes to the outskirts outside central Sioux Falls. And we're losing taxes. We're losing a tremendous amount of taxes that are not being reimbursed in any other way. And this is a very logical process to look at if you can only look at it from the economics of it all. We have a lot of promises from Sanford. but I think that at a minimum, they owe an ad in the paper, let everybody know. I think you're going to be surprised at how many people would show up. Say, we're having a meeting to talk about expansion in Central Sioux Falls. We're going to talk about the economics, we're going to talk about the tax base, and we're going to talk about people trying to move into Sioux Falls and being able to afford a house. Where else can you get a house that's going to be less than $100,000? And in this economy right now, it's going to be pretty tough. And I think we're working against the people who are just starting out or buying their first house, or people actually who want to downsize. In reference to the comment about moving the hospital, my contention is that Sanford made a decision some 30 years ago to stay where they were, and they have to take responsibility of that. And the outcome should not be that hundreds, in fact, I'm guessing, I don't know off the top of my head, 250, 300 homes since the original hospital when you could go by on the bus, because I used to go by from Washington going home at the end of the day when you could take the bus down Euclid Avenue. Has that been 40 years? I don't want to know. Whatever those years are, someone made a decision to remain in Sioux Falls and not move outside. And they decided that the solution was that we're going to move people out of their houses. And I think that needs to be a consideration. And I have to repeat that having gone door to door, people are upset. And I don't think it'll take too much to get them going all together. So there needs to be some consideration before this goes too far down the road. Thank you for your time.
Questions? Thank you. Others that wish to address the council, name and address, please. No, you've talked. Go ahead, sir. He hasn't had a chance.
My name is Mike Langford, 807 South Grange. I've got about 9 things I'd like to bring up here. One of the things is I did get a letter inviting me to come to the Sanford meeting at the Schroeder Auditorium on September 22nd. I got that about a week before the meeting. One thing about that is that, that was in September 22nd. And then this was going to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission on November the 5th. Quite frankly, not an awful lot of time between the time that we actually first really learned about this. Not that there isn't rumors running around that Sanford's going to do this and somebody's going to do that and somebody's going to tear this down and build this, whatever. I don't really listen to hearsay too much. I listen to fact. And the fact was made public on September 22nd that they were going to go north of 17th Street. So that didn't allow us an awful lot of time to come up with any ideas really as to how we could be involved in this. I guess I question, I don't think the week or two before September 22nd, they came up with the idea of building the heart hospital. I'm guessing that that's probably been in the works for several years. That being the case, maybe they should have took a look at what this would do to the neighborhood in the evolving plan, instead of saying, well, this is something I'm sure we can work out probably relatively easy with the neighbors. As far as this four-corner posting business, that's pretty interesting, and Mike Cooper addressed it, that this is an unusual situation. But you know what? Most of the people that were in that 4-block area had no idea what was going on, because it was posted at 801 South Grange on the corner of 17th and Grange, right behind the bus stop at 17th and Grange. There's a actually bus bench there. So unless you actually got out and took a look at that sign to see what it really meant, you couldn't read it from the street to save your soul. And then over on the West Avenue side, we have the construction going on with the new Ronald McDonald House. So most people would have assumed that that had something to do with the Ronald McDonald House. So I don't think we were totally treated fair this way. I don't think a lot of the people in the general gist of this had an idea what was going on. Now, I've been doing some remodeling on my house, and I'm not going to sit here and go into long details about that. But in the process, right across the street from my house, there were 2 homes that were destroyed by termites. And not that this makes any big difference, but Sioux Falls Housing bought those homes, tore those properties down, and went ahead and built 2 new homes over there. And this will probably give you an idea. They're like 808 and 810. Quite nice homes, as a matter of fact. They're in that $125,000 to $135,000 range. Both of those people came over when I was working on my house and said, what's going on? We heard there was a meeting at Sanford. Now, they live right directly across the street from what's going to be a parking lot, and those people hadn't heard anything about it. How would you people feel about not knowing you were getting a parking lot right across the street from your house? So Mr. Staggers has got a very good point, and his point is that people around that neighborhood really need to know what's going on, and many of them don't. And to this day, many of them don't. Some of these people are retirees that go south for the winter. And not that we should hold Sanford up for the entire winter, but they must have some people that are taking care of their homes or whatever. I think you brought up a very good point, that somewhere in the midst of all of this, that there should be a letter from the city. And the only reason I bring that up is because not too long ago, on that street, you guys decided that the street tree heights needed to be changed. We had to go from 14 feet to 16 feet so that we could clear this new equipment. Now, I got no problem with that, but you know what? I got a letter from you, so I knew what was going on. Last summer, I got a letter saying that some of my sidewalk was unlevel. Well, that's not a problem either. But it sure seems to be a problem to send me a letter saying, hey, guess what's going on in your neighborhood? We're going to have a committee meeting on this, and we think you should know about it. So I don't think, I'm not against Sanford. I've said this at 3 other meetings. I want to make sure that everybody understands what's going on, that everybody has the right to make their decisions. Some of these people bought these homes. Some of these people are elderly. Some of these people have lived in these homes for 40, 50 years. And they don't want to have to be pushed out of their house. And they said that they weren't pushing them out of the house. But interestingly enough, you talk to these people and they say, well, we have no voice in this anyway. It's all been done. It's all been at this, when this zoning program came up, a lot of these people thought this was a done deal. They had no idea that this was coming to the final meeting right here tonight. So I think maybe we should take a good long look and make sure that the 27 people that are involved and the people that live on the outer perimeter of this are involved, so that it's done and done right and not just shoved down somebody's throats.
Questions? Bob?
Are you the gentleman that's installing a new retaining wall alongside your driveway?
I certainly am.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Do you like the retaining wall?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Others that wish to address the council? Okay, is something new then?
I just want to say, the house that we still own was the house my father built in one of these surrounding neighborhoods. In 2 years, it will be 60 years old. And we are the only people who've ever owned it. And I would hate to see that house have to be torn down or moved or whatever. Also, it occurred to me when I was listening to everyone talk, when my father built that house, and he built it all with hand tools, and after work he'd go out and he'd dig and work until the sun was down and he couldn't see any longer. But when we built, we were virtually sort of on the outskirts of Sioux Falls, so I have no idea when Sioux Valley was originally built. It was there when my father built our house. But we, who were just a few blocks away from Sioux Valley, we lived with fields around us because we were the outskirts. So Sioux Valley had to have been built on the edge of town, I think, at some whatever point. So,
Thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item 17? Seeing no one coming forward, is there council discussion or action on item number 17?
Orland, I have a question for you regarding when you approach somebody or somebody approaches you on the purchase of their home, and you've indicated the first thing you ask for is an appraisal, do you give them a list of appraisers to use, or do you just ask them to provide a licensed appraisal, or how does that work?
I'm going to need to defer to the lady who does that work, if I can ask her or ask her to
Or
come
she can
forward,
step
either
up,
one.
that would be fine.
Melissa Radigan does that work for us, and I honestly don't know the answer, but I believe she does. So.
We let them know that a certified appraiser of their choice is who can do the appraisal. We do not in any way dictate who they can use. They have to be a licensed appraiser.
Okay. And then, follow-up question, if I can.
Yes.
Typically, when you get an appraisal, there's 3 different approaches that they'll be used. One would be an income approach, which wouldn't be applicable here, I don't think, and then a replacement cost, and then a comparable sales. Is that still the methodology used in appraisals?
Yes, absolutely. And because it's a residential property, the actual appraised value based on comparable sales is the one that the appraiser will state is the most likely, is the best value.
And those comparable sales, are they outside of the area so that they're not, not impaired by the, the institutional type setting that is close
The
to?
appraiser has the option of using any sales. Typically, it's within a 6 to 10 block radius of where the house is. And so occasionally, they will use other sales that have occurred within the block. Most times, it is probably, properties that are not necessarily within the same block of that property.
And is that typically the ultimate purchase price is the appraised value then?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, Bob. Just a minute. No, wait, please. We're closer to council discussion here. Thank you. Go ahead.
I have to ask, and I maybe should have done this before, but I got to ask since I live right by there, and I've had concerns about ethical questions involving my voting patterns here. Am I okay to vote on this? Is that I would pose that question to the city attorney.
Can you vote?
Well, I know I can, but I'm kind of looking at, I live right by there. I could possibly be affected by this. Quite frankly, I'd rather stand outside in the cold and eat dead birds than be here tonight. And I don't want to appear to be a coward and ducking out, but then again, I don't want this to come back and haunt me later on if we do vote on this tonight.
Well, I would have to say this, that there hasn't been anything you said, other than probably the easiest way out is going out the door on the issue, that would in any way impact your ability to vote, because it doesn't have a thing to do, from what I've seen, what you said, with your interest in your property.
I'm a block away from
Yes,
this.
but,
Okay.
but,
All right.
if you felt it did, then I would tell you to not vote, if it impacted your vote. But there's nothing that says, other than the fact that you live close by, there isn't anything I've ever seen in any rule that says that you have to recuse yourself.
Mr. Mayor.
I hope that's probably around the tree, but it's not. Without more specific facts, it's pretty hard to just say that it would be, Councilman.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Gerald.
Orland or Melissa, I'm not sure which one of these, or which one of these questions you might be able to answer, but out of the 43 houses that were sold, can you tell me if you know if those people came to you or if you went to them? I'd like to know the percentage, or if you have some idea what the accuracy would be of their choice versus some of the other comments we've heard.
I can speak to those that, I started with Sanford in July of '07, and so I was instrumental in the purchase of a good number of those houses, not all of them. Every house that I have purchased, the individual property owner has come to us.
So is that the majority of those 43 within
Yes.
the last year and a half?
Yeah. We bought a large block of homes from one individual owner who owned a number of homes, and that's the only one that I would question. I believe that she initiated the request to Sanford a number of years ago, wanting to get out of the rental business, but I don't know that for sure.
And my second question, if I may, is of those 43, do you ever rent those out when people vacate those for staff to increase or decrease your parking needs? Or do the people that sometimes sell those houses, do they ever remain in those homes for an extended period of time to rent them from you?
Yeah, we actually, yes to both questions. Every house that we purchase, we turn around and rent right away. And there's a huge demand for low-cost housing, whether it be on an owner-occupied basis or whether it be on a rental. And so we have a lot of people who work in the area who are thankful that there are rentals available. And so, yes, we rent every one of our houses. And a lot of, not a lot, but a good number of people sell their homes to us and then stay, whether it be for 2 months or 6 months. Well, I think we have 2 people right now that sold their property to us over a year ago who have just chosen to stay on a rental basis until they make other plans.
Thank you.
Yeah, in regard to Bob Litz's concern here about voting, my understanding is we had a rule that within 300 feet of a zoned area. Oh, okay.
Then let's move to, do you have it?
Yes, I do. Pardon me. Sorry, Kermit, I was just looking that up and actually sharing that with Bob because that is under the Code of Conflicts of Interests. Section 12.5-43, I just wanted to look it up for myself just to review it. Subsection 6, city officials shall not, it says, participate or vote in matters having a financial interest in any property within 300 feet of property involved in a zoning matter before the city council. So I just make that available to you.
I own the property on 15th Street, which is approximately 300 feet.
Good block.
Let's go with Greg.
Just for general discussion, didn't, I believe Sanford followed all the rules necessary in getting this? I know they missed a deadline on getting some of their signs posted, but they really followed all the rules that we've set up, really, for them to follow when they worked with planning. I've heard a lot tonight that people were not informed and they felt that they weren't informed, but I think maybe we need to address that issue ourselves down the line. If we've got a unique situation like this, a large area, and instead of posting the four corners, we probably need to set up another plan of action here so that the city does a better job of informing the public. They work with the applicant in informing the people around the area. I think we could probably step up a little bit on our side and impose some new rules and not lay that burden completely on the applicant. I think we could probably do a better job on our side, and I think we should move to that sometime in the future here.
Further comments on item number 17? Go ahead, Pat.
Again, Mike, just to be perfectly clear, our ordinance or whatever regulates this states that it just the four corners of the property of the area to be rezoned, not the property? Because I would have thought that four corners on every individual property would have needed to be posted, but maybe that's impractical as well. I don't know.
Well, it's the four corners of the area or property being rezoned, plus there's a requirement for a neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
And so we work with the applicants to give them the best information that we have on property owners and addresses within the area that they're required to notify.
If I might, I just, I'm really struggling with the notification thing because it, on one hand, it doesn't seem that it's quite the way it should be, as Councilor Jamison had said. But on the other hand, we have quite a turnout tonight, and I know there's been people that have been going door to door, and whether they were notified through the posting or through the mailers from Sanford, it seems that there's been a significant amount of notification of the neighborhood that happens. It may not have been the way it should have been, but it does appear to the people that many people were informed about it.
And again, our intent, City Attorney Amundsen always hears me talk about intent. Obviously, the intent was to make everybody aware of what was being proposed and to allow the residences to decide if they wanted to be included in the rezoning or not. It was not our intent to mandate that anybody had to be included. And so that's, again, why we have offered an amendment tonight that would exclude 3 people that we've heard from tonight.
Okay, so if this motion passes and one of the 27 comes forward and said, I didn't want a piece of that, can they have it rezoned back to the original zoning?
We can, yes. We could go through that process if that was
And what would that entail? I mean, would they need their neighbors' consent or anything? They
just
could
go back through the hearing process again and change what was previously approved.
What does that cost?
It would not cost anybody anything to change it.
Thank you.
Kenny?
Mike, the property off of South Euclid there, I've driven by that area. They've raised some homes there where it's a vacant lot now. It's the area in gold there, right just above 17th Street. And then you have the darker color. The darker color one is still residential, correct?
Yeah, those are 2 different existing residential zoning districts. One is higher density than the other one. So the yellow and the gold are existing residential zoning districts.
Okay, but I guess, what's the plan for that area then there? Is that going to be the same as what we're zoning now? Are we going to be looking at that in the future? Because that's all vacant lot now, just dirt, unless they put in a parking lot. I haven't driven by there in the last couple weeks.
Are you talking about north of 16th Street?
I'm talking north of 17th Street here.
Okay.
The yellow.
Yeah, that's part of
Before
this
it turned
proposed
gold.
rezoning tonight.
Okay.
That area would be included within this proposed rezoning tonight.
Further questions? Okay, we got a motion before us. We've got a motion before us. We don't have any motions. Was there any?
We don't have any motions.
Is there any other discussion, or is there a motion? On item 17, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I would like Justice Amundson to address my earlier remarks.
Well, in light of this, looking at this, and I'd have to say, if you're within 300 feet under the conflicts, you couldn't vote on this. It says participate or vote in matters. Where you have, a lot of times you don't think of your residents, you think more of probably business type things or changing that. But it doesn't exclude it. It's pretty broad here. So residents.
My residence is next door to the apartment that I own.
Yeah.
And I believe that I
fall within 300 feet, then that I think that I always say when I used to sit on things, if I felt uncomfortable without a specific measurement, I would say you probably should follow the ordinance.
Well, at the risk of appearing to be a coward, I'm going to ask to be excused from this vote.
Will be noted. Further comments? You got to step out. You got to be off the floor. Is there further? Go ahead, Ken.
On this, I'm going to agree with Councilman Jamison. One of the things that I've been hearing a lot tonight is that there was a communication issue between the residents, the city, and Sanford, and that's something we definitely need to address. The other thing that I do support the expansion of Sanford Hospital, but we also have to remember that we are doing that at the expense of affordable homes and neighborhoods. I see a lot of neighborhoods here going away. Actually, on Euclid Avenue, I lived there for 4 years. The house I lived in is now a vacant lot. I've talked to neighbors there tonight, and that's their fear. Their fear is they're losing their neighborhoods, the neighborhoods they've lived in all their years. So I am going to, say to the Stanford officials, part of being a good neighbor is communication, and we need to definitely work on that together. And I hope that even after this vote tonight, we will move forward and relieve some of those concerns and try to make this work better for us the next time.
Further comments? We don't have any motion before us on item number 17. We need a motion to do something. We've got to take action when we got to do something.
I'll stick my neck out here and make a motion for approval.
Okay, Jamison moves. Is there a second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. Now, we got a motion we made and seconded. There's been a proposed amendment to amend item 17 for Diane Huey and is it Amy Tauser and Elizabeth Hubner to propose to remove their names and addresses from item 17.
I'd make that motion.
Second. Costello made the motion. Who seconded?
Second.
Brown seconded. Further comments on that motion to amend? If we understand the motion, all in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Just a moment, please. I'd like to remind the gentleman I need last names when we do motions and seconds, please.
We had Costello made it and Brown seconded.
I got it. Okay. Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz is excused. Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
All members present have voted. We got 6 yes and 2 excused on the amendment. So back to the main motion as amended. We've got a motion to approve that's been made and seconded to approve. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have another amendment.
Okay, what's that?
Yes, I move that the 27 other properties that are not owned by Sanford be excluded from this ordinance.
The 27 properties that
That are not owned by Sanford be excluded.
Okay, not owned. That's the motion by Staggers. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Anderson.
Anderson seconds. Further comments on the motion? Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason I'm making this is because we have not received any assurances tonight that all of those 27 property owners want to be a part of this. So I think that we should be very respectful of this, not knowing whether they want this or not, and vote for this amendment.
Okay, everybody understands the motion? Go ahead.
Mike, could you give us a sense of the impact of that?
I think, as we talked some time ago tonight, if we go back to the graphic that shows the east side of the Sanford Plan Development District, we have a very unusual boundary that has been approved by the City Council, the area in gray. And when Sanford approached the City Planning Department about going to the north with the property that either they currently own or that they're proposing to acquire, it was really the City Planning Department's thought that we should look at a larger area, again, so that we can maybe approach this with a more transparent idea of what's going to happen in the future. So if we move forward with just the portions tonight that Sanford owns, that would give us the same look that we have on the east side. And then as they continue to acquire land, then they would just have to come back at a later date to expand the zoning. So it's really kind of what approach the City Council would like us to take in the future with these kind of requests.
I guess, Mike, in response to your question, I guess I'm concerned that we don't do this in the future unless we have written consent that the people want to be a part of it.
Right.
I mean, if they want to be a part of it, that's a different matter. But here, we don't know for sure.
Right, and I think I've got that message loud and clear tonight, that in future cases like this, we need to do take a better approach as far as notification and working with the property owners, and we're certainly willing to do that.
Okay, we've got the motion before us. Substitute motion. Okay. Further comments on that motion, the Sager's motion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of that, approving that motion? Yes. Opposed? No.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
No.
Jamison,
No?
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Benninga? No.
3 yes and 3 no and 2 excuse. That motion fails. We're back to the main motion as amended. Further discussion on the main motion as amended.
Well, without the amendment I offered, I cannot vote for this at all, because we are just totally ignoring these 27 property owners. I can't believe we're doing this. Once again, if we had assurances that they wanted this, that's fine, but this is their property. And now we're simply going ahead without knowing their wishes and imposing this change.
Okay, go ahead.
Once again, Mike, these property owners, if they want to change back, they will be able to do that at no cost. Is that correct? If they want to change their zoning, the
Yes.
ones that we have not contacted.
And we will actually make an effort to work with property owners on whatever they would like. But again, we went through the process of working with Sanford, because a neighborhood meeting is required by ordinance, in addition to the posting. All the addresses within the area that's being considered tonight were given, and it was our understanding that those letters did go out. So that was our attempt to try to contact the people within the neighborhood. And what we've heard from tonight, obviously, are the people that have already indicated that they wanted to be excluded, and people that are not within the proposed rezoning. So,
Okay, Gerald, then go back.
Mike, is there a time frame on when those 27 individuals are organizations or whatever have the opportunity to opt out? What time frame would that be
I would
besides the
say
no cost?
we could, work with them over the next 30 to 60 days, and if some people are out of town or gone, just to make sure that they have that.
Is it possible to send them certified letters?
We can send letters out, yeah. We don't usually send out certified letters, but we'll do whatever it takes to try to contact people and make sure that they're aware of what has happened tonight.
Okay, so am I to understand that you will have some sort of definitive contact from all the property owners at 27 Unknown?
Yes.
Either, or Sanford will, between the two?
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, just talking about notifying these property owners after this has happened, I mean, we're subverting their property rights. I mean, this is not good for the city to be involved in, subverting these property rights this way.
I guess I would take the other.
Because also, let me mention, too, that, let's suppose now that this would just fail. Well, Sanford can come back anytime and do this, too. But we're putting it on these individuals. Why should we put it on them? I think it would be more appropriate to put it on Sanford. Because these people already own the property. Why are we putting an extra burden on them? We're trying to make it easier for the institution, the hospital.
And I just, again, would remind everybody that the signs were posted and that there was a neighborhood meeting as required by city ordinance of the people within the area that's being considered tonight for rezoning. So,
Okay, Pat.
I think we all understand that the notification thing has not been very good at all. But I go back to what I said earlier. I know that we certainly have a very large turnout tonight. We know that people have been going door to door, and we don't know that these 27 people are opposed to it. I mean, I understand, Kermit, and I don't.
You don't
I
know.
don't necessarily.
He's got the floor, Kermit.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I think there probably has been notification because there is such a large amount of people here, and we've heard about people talk about going door to door, and there was some effort. And this is not a permanent change if we do it tonight. So it's not the best of any situation here.
Yeah.
We've got to move on.
You're right. This is not the best. But why should we want to go ahead and violate these property rights tonight? Why don't we let's just do it right? The people that own the property, if they want to be part of this, that's perfectly fine with me. But why do we want to go ahead without knowing for sure?
Well, if I might, this is not a change that's permanent. If there's something wrong, we can fix it. If there was no chance of ever correcting a mistake, then I wouldn't be going down this road. But we can change this, and if the planning department in Sanford is willing to go on the record and say that they're going to contact all 27 of these property owners to make sure what happens, if it does pass, works, then, and if it's not, I assume that they will work diligently to correct the mistake. I'm just willing to go out on that. This is not a permanent change.
I think we have
It's a permanent change. It doesn't have to be.
I think we're going backwards, though. We should be focusing on letting Sanford take care of that issue. Not these property owners who own the property. Sanford doesn't even own the property, and we're putting the burden on them to go back through all this rigmarole.
Okay, we've got a motion before us, been made and seconded, and it is amended, and it's going to take 5 votes to get this ordinance passed. So further comments? Not. All in favor of approving item 17 as amended will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Anderson.
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes.
All members present have voted 5 yes, 1 no, and 2 excused. Item 17 has been approved as amended. Now we go to item number 6.
Item number 6 is an abatement. The following abatement was recommended for denial by the Director of Equalization in the State Attorney's Office for Minnehaha County and the City Attorney for Sioux Falls. Randall J. Westman, Westman Investments of South Dakota, LLC, for property taxes at 3900 North National Avenue from the year 2000 to 2007.
Bob, you made the motion. on item number 6.
Yes, I did. I was looking at it, and I remember from last week there I had some questions about that, and I wasn't too sure what was going on, and I was hoping we could put a little light on this evening. So I see that some folks are here from the county, and I was
Gordy,
hoping
do you want to speak on it?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. I'm Gordy Swanson from the Minnehaha County State's Attorney's Office.
Did you turn that on?
I think it is on. I could lean into it a little more, though. This request for abatement, while it may be easy to empathize with the applicants who are seeking this abatement because of the fact that there have been some roguish tactics on the part of the prior owner of this property in order to keep the property, file bankruptcy petitions to avoid or to at least delay the collection of these property taxes. The fact is, with our property tax system, the taxes, along with the interest and penalties on those taxes, were never in peril because of the fact that the county will take tax certificates and it will take tax deeds to any property on which the property tax goes unpaid after a certain deadline. So while perhaps it would be easy to empathize with these folks who have taken over this property now from the original debtor, who is now, I believe, out of business, it simply is an abatement request that has no basis under South Dakota law. South Dakota law has half a dozen or so reasons that taxes or penalties and interest can be abated, and this request simply doesn't meet any of those reasons.
Questions of Gordy on that? Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, Gordy, you mentioned that they were doing this, going into bankruptcy to avoid these taxes?
Well, they were going into bankruptcy to, I believe, to fend off creditors. And so the original owner of this property, or the people that were buying this property on a contract for deed, filed bankruptcy petitions a couple of times to try to stay in business and keep their creditors at bay. One of those creditors being the tax collector.
Okay. So this was legitimate bankruptcy they were engaged in?
Well, that's very questionable. The bankruptcy was dismissed twice, and I'm not going to call it illegitimate, but it ended up being a bankruptcy that, for whatever reason, couldn't be sustained and survive, so the reorganization did not occur.
Further, okay, Bob.
I was wondering here now, for 7 years this has gone on, from 2000 to 2007, 6 or 7 years, depending on how you look at it. How much of this is interest and penalties on the amount?
The entire, I'm glad you asked that question, Councilman. The entire amount that these applicants are requesting be abated is interest and penalties. They are not asking for the property taxes themselves to be abated, just the interest and penalties. So the full amount that you see on the memo that you have, if it's the same thing as I have from your agenda, is simply interest and penalties that they're seeking to have abated.
$58,620.93, is that correct?
I'm sorry. The attorney for Westman Investments, the applicant for this abatement, is here, and they said the total is $15,000 that they are seeking to have abated, which is just the interest and penalties.
So the $15,000 would come off the total of the $58,620. Is that what?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Are you going to come on, Dan?
My name is Dan Donahue. I'm a partner over at the Davenport Law Firm, and my address is 13 Riverview Heights here in Sioux Falls. Mr. Mayor, council members, my pleasure to be here on behalf of the current owner of this property. A little bit of history, I think, is appropriate at this time. Our client actually started out in an effort to do a good deed. He was acquainted with a gentleman by the name of Walsh and Mr. Walsh's family from Watertown. Mr. Walsh was purchasing this property on a contract for deed, and a foreclosure action was started by the then owner of the property, Paul Harris. So the parties at that time, the owner had been Paul Harris, he sold the property to Mr. Walsh. This is the Action Carriers property that is up off of Benson Road, east of Cliff Avenue. I don't know all the details about the foreclosure, but our client ended up in, I believe it was 2007, early 2007, coming in and making an offer to basically take over the contract from Mr. Harris. So he, in effect, purchased title to the property from Mr. Harris, and then felt that he could deal with Mr. Walsh. He'd known the family for a long time, and he'd sold equipment, tractors, trailers, to the Walsh family over the years. So he purchased the property. I don't know if he had any legal advice at the time. I understand he was not aware of the extent or nature of the interest penalties and all the taxes that were unpaid. That I believe is the case. We've been engaged by an attorney, his attorney from Aberdeen, Ron Smith, to come before you with this application tonight. Now, before starting this process out, I actually went down to the county courthouse and visited with Ken McFarland and with Gordy, who was just up here, and discussed with them the propriety of filing an application for an abatement. Gordy is very, very familiar with, and much more familiar than I am, with what's happened to this property and the taxes over the course of the last 7 years. At that meeting, it was their suggestion that we file the application and indicated that the folks at the Equalization Office would assist us with regard to completing the application. So we did that. They indicated they preferred and that the procedure is to come before the City Council to request the abatement. That's why we're here. Now, our client, while the foreclosure was ongoing, and his predecessor, Mr. Harris, they had no responsibility for the taxes. Mr. Walsh was responsible for the taxes as the contract purchaser of the property. Mr. Walsh clearly didn't pay the real estate taxes. However, with the bankruptcies, and there were 2 or 3 bankruptcies in the process here, as Mr. Walsh tried to fend off his creditors, neither could the county go after him for the taxes or the interest or penalty at the time, but Mr. Harris and then our client really couldn't go after him either because of the bankruptcies that were ongoing at different times. So there was really no possibility for either our client or Mr. Harris to go after him for and to try to take the property back. In fact, he did everything he could to extend this out absolutely as long as he could. Now, you know, we can argue about the legality of this particular application. We do have a statute. It's 10-18-1.1 that discusses, at least the time allowed, for an abatement of a refund of an invalid, inequitable, or unjust tax. And it speaks of the county commissioners, if they're satisfied beyond a doubt, that at least the assessment of the property is invalid, inequitable, or unjust, the board can abate or refund any part of the tax, which I'm assuming includes the interest and the penalty. And so that's why we're here. I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be taking up your time, nor would I intend to take up the county commissioner's time if we get that far by requesting an abatement if I hadn't met with Ken McFarland and with Gordy initially. So we're here.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, if I make a motion, and let's say it gets approved here tonight, then it would still have to go to the county and get approved. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Pat?
Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're appealing to the notion that it's an unjust tax, or that your client has got the wrong short end of the stick on the deal?
Under the circumstances, it's inequitable. That's correct.
It's inequitable.
Yep.
I mean, that the property tax is levied? It
No.
was that you know, I mean, you're not saying that the property taxes themselves?
No. They were properly levied. There's no question about that. But the bankruptcy laws, the way that they're set up, essentially have created a situation here where it would be, in our view, inequitable to collect the interest and penalty, because there's really no way that the contract holder could in fact get the property back and then be assured that if they paid the real estate taxes, that they'd own the property. They could have gone in, I suppose, and voluntarily paid the taxes, but then they would never be assured that they'd get the property back. It was a catch-22.
Let's go with Gerald and then Kermit.
Dan, you're asking for the taxes and penalties, correct, to be abated?
Only the interest.
Can you tell me what that number is, please?
$15,209.46.
Dan?
I'm sorry.
I've got a sheet attached to the application for abatement that indicates, if I'm reading it right, that the interest is $58,620.
No, those are the taxes. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, that is the interest, but that's for 7 years.
Right.
Yeah. We can only go back 4 years. So if you total up the last 4 years' worth of interest and penalty, I believe it comes to $15,209.46. I'm sorry.
I would also indicate to the council that it's been a long time since I dealt with equalization issues back in the state's attorney's office, but I did review SDCL 1018-1, and it states that the only grounds for an abatement are those listed by statute, and Mr. Donahue's client's plea for relief does not fall, in my opinion, under any of those provisions. And I think that's the county's position as well.
We could argue that item 4 applies because the complainant here had no taxable interest in the property at the time that the taxes were assessed.
Well, and I looked at that too, Dan, but I think that goes to a situation where you've got somebody who buys a piece of property and there aren't any back taxes or penalties owed, but the county comes along and says you owe taxes on it and it's a mistake.
I think there's another section that deals with mistake. That's number 1.
Well, I would argue subsection 4 doesn't apply under these circumstances.
Go ahead, folks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Could you clarify the 15,000 again? Is that just interest and no penalties?
I believe that's the, Mr. Sagers, I believe that that's it's a category of interest and penalties, so it's primarily interest. I think there's a very small amount of penalty in that number.
Okay, so there's a little bit of penalty.
A little bit of
Just
penalty,
a
but it's
little.
mostly interest.
Go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the $15,209.46 abatement only because I believe that if somebody's in bankruptcy and you have no other alternative, I don't know how you collect, frankly. And I believe that the county needs to address this. So I will make a motion to approve that abatement.
Second, Litz.
Okay, motion by Bennigan, seconded by Litz. And it would say 15,000, what?
$15,209.46 is the number I wrote.
Everybody understand the motion to $15,209.46 for the abatement? Is that right? All in favor of that motion, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
That motion is passed, 7 yes, 1 excused. Okay, so let's see what
Item 18
there you go.
is a deferred action, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising the order of business for council meetings.
Item number 18.
Mayor, if I may, this is the revisions to the order of business, and I believe fiscal committee meeting met at 2 o'clock last Friday to discuss this.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, we discussed this on Friday, and the fiscal committee would like to defer this again so that the program directors have an opportunity to read through our change, and we'd like to bring it back in a couple of weeks.
The next meeting we have is January 5th?
Yes.
That's the first,
That would be fine.
okay, defer until January 5th. By Benega, is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. Further comments on the motion to defer item number 18 until January 5th? All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
All members present voted. Item number 18 has been deferred to January 5th. We're at 19.
Item number 19 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by establishing the procedure for the issuance and regulation of on-sale licenses for full-service restaurants in the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as set forth in Chapter 5, Alcoholic Beverages.
Mr. Mayor, this is second reading for...
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, may I excuse myself?
Okay, it'll be noted that Councilmember Costello will be excused.
Mr. Mayor, under the old state laws, Sioux Falls was having difficulty getting more restaurants into the city because under today's business plans, they require liquor licenses in order to be profitable. This is a different class of license created by the state, Senate Bill 126, it was called last year. It's a restaurant liquor license. And what this allows any restaurant that is a full-fledged restaurant to have this special class of license. State law sets out what it will cost. We have 90 days to figure that process out. But in its simplest form, it means that they will not be able to have more than 40% of their revenue coming from alcohol. We have staff here. There will be some friendly amendments from the city attorney's office. I'll make a motion later on to get that language in there that makes some changes to what we currently have. Those friendly amendments have been out on Granicus for 2 weeks for people to view as well.
Others that wish to address the council on item number 19?
Dawn Aspas, Complete Real Estate and the Development Group of South Dakota, 3200 South Madeline, Sioux Falls, 57106. Mr. Mayor and council members, I appreciate you finally bringing this ordinance forward. I am one of the group of people who got together the last 2 years, 2007, and 2008, to bring this law forward. We are developers, business owners, hotel owners, restaurant operators who believe that we are being challenged in all of our communities, many of the larger communities, in our licensing abilities. Licenses have gotten extremely expensive to the point of out of hand. The monopoly on licenses has become devastating to our commerce and our private entities. And tonight you'll hear from a couple of my partners in this bill for 2007 and 2008. A lot of work went in statewide. It kept saying this is a Sioux Falls bill, this is a Sioux Falls bill. And what we want to say now is, yes, please, Sioux Falls, come forward and say, yes, we agree with the group that we need it. I'd hate to see that Rapid City beats us out once again, but we really, truly do need your help. We do need the abilities to grow and fill our developments, and without your help, that is not going to happen. So I appreciate it, and I know Mr. Lloyd will probably fill you in on deeper details. Thank you.
Question, Don?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kermit.
Yes. Sorry to put you on the spot. But,
Sorry.
I agree with you about the fees. They're just outrageous. Any suggestions on what the city council should do in 90 days as far as the fees, how much it should be?
Well, according to the law that was passed, and we tried to keep it as low as possible for you in opportunities, we really pushed for it to be a local government decision and that it would be in your total control. One of the things that, of course you have to do is look at what the last recorded, license fee was. And so you'll find that out, and then that would be the lowest. So the lowest that you can possibly get it for our restaurateurs who need to come into our city helps their bottom line. But it also has to be, of course, your commerce decision for what you need in the city.
Let's go, Gerald.
And to follow up on what Dawn said, it is laid out in state law exactly the process we have to follow for that pricing.
Further discussion? Someone want to come forward? Name and address.
Craig Lloyd Light Company is 1005 Tomar Road, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. As Dawn tried to eliminate or put out to you folks is that this is a bill for development. And that's basically what it is. And to make development happen in the city of Sioux Falls and to create jobs and to create more restaurants, there had to be a different way to be able to get more liquor licenses in the hand of restaurateurs that wanted to come to the city. For a franchise to take the full step of applying to this franchisee, to apply to a franchisor to come to Sioux Falls, they have to answer a variety of different questions. One of the questions is, can you get a liquor license in the city of Sioux Falls? Basically, in the last few years, the only answer you could say is no, because it wasn't readily available. We had an opportunity about a year ago or 2 years ago to make liquor licenses available. This council or previous council said that we need to make it a different system, to try to make it as fair as possible, so we had a lottery system. You know, one side says yes, that worked. Other side says no, it didn't work, because basically what happened is all those liquor licenses went to casino owners and people that wanted to have a casino. So that's when Dawn and her group, and I was part of that group, decided we have to come up with a different system so that a family restaurant can come to the city of Sioux Falls. If they want to serve liquor, they have the opportunity to serve liquor, and they have an opportunity to compete in the food and beverage business. This is not a bar license. This is not a casino license. This is basically a family restaurant that wants to serve food. And one of the elements of serving food is to be able to have a drink of your choice, either be hard alcohol, beer, wine, whatever, and to be competitive within that nature. And we can't answer those questions to the national franchise people and be honest with them and tell them that we can get a license. This bill will allow us to get a license. It's a very steep, expensive part of operating a business. This license can't be transferred. You can't use it as a commodity. It's just a cost of getting in business in the city of Sioux Falls or in the state of South Dakota. And so we ask that you pass it to allow us to do what we think we do pretty good, and that's to build restaurants, bring new venues into the city, and make it a better entertainment area. Any questions?
Craig, for those people who are bringing in a restaurant that's a franchise, they understand their business, they know the 40-60 mix of business relationships with alcohol versus food. Do you have any concern about someone who's a mom-and-pop restaurant, if you will, who will not be able to meet those 40-60 or projects that they will and then will not be able to meet that ratio?
You know, Gerald, it's a very good question. We hope that people are able to figure out their business plan. You know, we go through a lot of efforts to, when we go to lease space to someone, to make sure they understand the business as well as they possibly can. This is another element that they're going to have to figure out. Is it a great plan? I'm the first one to stand up here and say, no, it's not a great plan. It's the best one we could come out of the legislature with. And the mom and pop restaurant should probably really wait till the 2011 allocation of liquor license and buy a liquor license that's more open.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mayor. Others?
Scott Blount, 6208 South Landau Circle, Sioux Falls. I want you to know that prior to coming down to this meeting, I did go over and consult my Baptist minister father as to why I was going to be advocating for more liquor licenses in the city of Sioux Falls. So I'm down here with his blessing, nonetheless. I actually am here on a personal level also, in that I work for Lloyd Companies as a commercial broker associate, and I currently have two entities under contract, two different restaurant entities under contract to come to the city of Sioux Falls. We're under contract with one group for over $1.5 million on just the parcel of land that they want. It's a Minneapolis group, upscale casual restaurant, great restaurant for the city of Sioux Falls. They want to come in, spend $1.5 million just on the land, probably another $2 million on the building themselves, because they believe in Sioux Falls. Another restaurant that I have a letter of intent, a signed letter of intent with, is a family-themed restaurant. Less than 10% of their sales are derived from alcohol sales. But it is a family-themed restaurant. It's actually a restaurant that is very much caters to children and their families, because they have an entertainment side of their restaurant that they provide. But they will not come to Sioux Falls without a liquor license. Very, very small part of their business. The jobs that these licenses would create, I mean, I could go into, I work with Craig, the development jobs from the people building the restaurants, the plumbing, the electrical, the HVAC, that whole development thing, the jobs that would be created are very, very necessary in our economy during this time in Sioux Falls. And aside from those two that I have under contract, I'm also working with another group. And by the way, those two, one group is out of North Dakota, one group is out of Minnesota. A third group I'm working with is out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. These are all outside entities that literally want to come into Sioux Falls and spend millions of dollars on restaurant development. And I think it's very, very important that we accept them, make the necessary changes that allow them to come in and move forward with this. So.
Questions, Scott? Thank you. Others that wish to address the council on item number 19? Not?
Mr. Mayor, move to approve.
Motion by Brown to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Benninga.
Benninga seconds.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would move to amend in the prepared language as submitted by the city attorney's office.
Okay, that
Pardon me, I wonder if you almost want to do a substitute motion with a new language and make it a real clean motion that way.
I withdraw that motion and move to do a substitute motion with the language as provided by the city attorney's office.
substitute motion to take the attorneys. Is there a
Second, Litz.
Second, we got a substitute motion. Let's second that substitute motion to amend with other language. Further questions on the motion to amend? Go ahead.
Yeah, what is the substitute language?
It's been on the website for 2 weeks. I have copies of here with the changes that, if you'd like to see it.
Is that part of it, where you just talk about that, it does explain the 40-60%?
Yes.
I think that's part of it.
If we may ask, maybe City Attorney Gail Easland could highlight the changes.
Sure. There are some slight rewording to clarify when a specific provision applies to a renewal as opposed to an initial application. There's also a sentence we added that we thought was necessary in Section 5-2.4 to show that if a restaurant does not meet the 40%, or no more than 40% of gross sales from alcohol sales, their license is not going to be renewed. And we did talk to the Department of Revenue, and that was the clear legislative intent behind that enactment. We also added a provision that dealt with sale or consumption of alcoholic beverages on a sidewalk abutting a licensed premises. That was also new in state law, and it certainly applies to our downtown area that serves alcohol. That was not in the older provision. And we also clarified in the city attorney's proposal that there is provision under the law for municipals to issue new full-service restaurant licenses if an applicant for a license cannot buy one off of the registry that offers licenses for sale at the current fair market value. And those are the major changes. Well, and it sets up a registry, but the older version did too. Yep.
Okay, we've got the substitute motion that's been made and seconded to follow some different guidelines of the attorneys working with them. Is there further comments? Not all in favor of the substitute motion to approve item 19 will vote yes, those opposed no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
All members present have voted 7 yes and we've got, yes, 6 yes and 2 excused. There we go. So item 19 has been approved as amended. Item 20.
Item 20 is an ordinance, a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the exchange of real property.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As Steve's bringing up the presentation, the first item is an exchange of property up north of Sioux Falls, and it is both parcels are agricultural based. Appraisals were conducted on both pieces of property, and essentially is squaring up property lines. It is exchanging 1.26 acres for 2.26 acres, and at closing, the Doug and Judy Schwartz will provide the city $3,900 with this exchange.
Questions of Mark on item number 20? Others that wish to address the council on item number 20? Is there a motion to approve?
So move, Anderson.
Anderson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 20 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 21.
Item 21 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the exchange of real property.
Mayor and City Council, this is the second reading of this exchange that we have with the South Dakota Department of Transportation. On the left side, there is a property that used to be occupied by the Wayne Township Fire Department, and on the right side is additional H lots that are needed for the widening of Marion Road. Appraisals have been conducted on both properties, and the difference the DOT will pay to the city is $140,065 at the time of closing.
Questions of Mark on item number 21? Others that wish to address the council on item number 21? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Litz.
Litz moves. Is there a second?
Second, Jamison.
Jamison seconded. Further comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve item 21 will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 21 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 22.
Item 22 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the southwest corner of East Madison Street and Powder House Road, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This property is approximately 38 acres in size. The petitioners are Ron and Jean Tisdall, property owners. This property was previously approved based on a petition by the property owners. They are now looking at a modification of the subdivision street layout, as well as changes to the access to this property. And so this will change the configuration of the commercial, multifamily, and residential zoning.
Questions of Mike on item number 22? Let's go to 23.
Item 23 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at West 5th Street and North Cornflower Avenue, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This property consists of 6 platted lots. The petitioner is AHO Northwest LLC, and the purpose of the rezoning is to allow the option for twin homes to be built on this property. The property to the east is a manufactured housing park, and to the west is single-family residential.
Questions to Mike on item 23? 24.
Item 24 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the northeast corner of East Madison Street and Powder House Road and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is about a 64.5-acre tract of land. The petitioner is Brian Bauer, and this is proposed to be a continuation of Canterbury Heights east of the projected South Dakota Highway 100 alignment. There's a major drainageway through the property, and this will mirror the zoning that the City Council has approved on the west side of South Dakota 100, which is commercial on the corner, and then multifamily and lower density residential to the north.
Questions of Mike on item 24? 25.
Item 25 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 5109 South Cliff Avenue and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends denial.
This property has been through a number of zoning hearings, and based on the Planning Commission recommendation as well as concerns by the neighbors, the applicant, Bert Collars, has submitted a letter requesting that this item be withdrawn.
Okay, be noted that item 25 be withdrawn. Item 26.
Item 26 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at East 57th Street and South Dubuque Avenue and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is about a 2.3-acre tract of land. Gloria Day Lutheran Church has acquired this property as well as property adjacent to this for a future church site. This is a tract of land that they will be selling off for commercial development.
Questions of Mike on item 26? 27.
Item 27 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at East 57th Street between Highway 11 and 6 Mile Road and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a 78-acre tract of land. The petitioner is Robert Tenkate, and this is proposed to be an expansion of the Falcon Heights development area that will include a mix of residential, commercial, and office uses.
Question of Mike on item 27? 28.
Item 28 is the first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the southeast corner of East 69th Street and South Southeastern Avenue and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a 38-acre tract of land. Don Dunham is the petitioner, and this zoning will bring it into compliance with a land use amendment that has previously been approved by the City Council.
Questions of Mike on item 28? 29.
Item 29 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2008-1111 to Chapter 15.45.070, Plan Development Districts at Brooks Crossing Plan Development District Subareas A and B to revise subarea boundaries and allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised subarea regulations and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a 53-acre tract of land in the northeast corner of 57th and Sycamore. Very commercial is the petitioner, and we are amending the zoning boundaries, again, to accommodate changes within their subdivision development plan, and this will be multifamily as well as office uses.
Questions of Mike on item 29? 30.
Item 30 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the city authorizing the issuance of its sales tax revenue bonds in one or more series, authorizing the use of the proceeds thereof to pay the costs of improvements to the existing diversion dam, construction of a new dam at the confluence of Skunk Creek and the Big Sioux River, rebuilding the 41st Street Bridge, and raising the levees to provide adequate flood risk reduction along the Big Sioux River, Skunk Creek, and the diversion channel in the city, pledging a portion of the sales and use tax proceeds of the city to the payment of said sales tax revenue bonds, fixing the terms of such sales tax revenue bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more supplemental indentures between the city and the First National Bank in Sioux Falls, and authorizing the sale, execution, and delivery of such sales tax revenue bonds.
Mr. Mayor, Gene Rowenhorst, Director of Finance for the City of Sioux Falls. Earlier this year, in developing the 2009 capital improvement program, the council adopted this program, and it would be funded by bonds. It will fund the bridge over 41st Street at approximately $12 million, and it will fund the raising of the remaining levies that are yet to be raised by the Corps of Engineers. The total bond issue would be $38 million.
Questions of Gene? Go ahead.
Yeah, Gene, what happened to the cost of the 41st Street Bridge going up to $12 million? Is that just maybe additional?
I have Mr. Cotter here, and he'd be happy to
okay.
share
Good.
the costs with us.
Mayor and City Council, the cost of the bridge is currently at $10.6 million, but we're also assuming that there will be an incentive put on that bridge to get it constructed, and the details of that has not been worked out yet, but I would expect by mid-January, the study that we've initiated to look at really 3 key different ways to construct that bridge would be in draft format, and then at that point we'll also be able to address the cost. And so I think one of the things from our concern is expecting that the bridge would be bid as early as October, November of 2009, so delivery of materials and procurements can begin. We could see another year of inflation on that original number, and so again, it was to provide ample cost coverage.
And also, too, why did we change the funding of this to making it a bond instead of what we had previously in the CIP for a number of years?
Well, in the previous CIP, we did have the bridge in as a sales tax item in the Public Works bid section. But I think when we look at these kinds of projects and we look at, first of all, timing, if the authorization is in 2010, but on a bridge like this that which we'll provide more detail to, but really needs an advance bid letting of probably 5 months, for us to accomplish that and start construction in about a March time frame, we'd have to be in advance of that appropriation year. So if our appropriation for 10 would start January 1st, we wouldn't be able to bid actually at that desired time, which is in November. I think also the cost of the facility and the life of the facility, the existing bridge out there was built in the 60s and then expanded in the 70s. A bridge today built with good construction methods is easily expected to last 50 years. And so when you have a facility of that life and this level of cost, I think it's a reasonable approach to actually bond it and somewhat smooth out your cost. A typical public works engineering section is about $15 million in capital dollars a year, just in the engineering department, and so that would almost take the majority of those capital funds for the year for one project. And last, I think one of the things that I would like you to recognize is that in that previous CIP, when we had about $79 million total over a 5-year period in the engineering CIP, when we revised it, took the bridge out and looked at debt service, we were able to move up several road projects, and a couple of key ones are the 8th Street reconstruction downtown, which is badly needed, the River Boulevard, which is east of Cliff Avenue. Those are 2, but overall we were able to move several projects up. We updated some of our cost estimates on others, and our total CIP went from $79 million up to about $82 million. And so taking the dollars out, we're still investing back into the roadway system.
Was there any thought about delaying some low-priority projects to get the $12 million instead of bonding it? Was there any conversation about that or discussion?
There's a substantial amount of conversations while we're developing the CIP, and a list of priorities are always discussed, and so there is, the CIP is, I believe, well prioritized. Some of those roads that we're talking about, they could certainly stand. We're still going to have to do a factor of maintenance even before we get to them in the years of 10 and 11. So I would look hard for a low priority project.
Okay, further questions on item number 30? Gerald and Pat. Okay, Pat.
Mark, on the, there's 1,600 properties. Are they, do you know the split on the residential versus commercial of that? That are affected?
I may have Mike Cooper address that from planning.
The map that I'm carrying around with me tonight shows that there's a projection of 1,300 structures at risk without this project moving forward. I don't have the breakdown between residential and non-residential. The total land value and buildings within this area that would be impacted without the completion of the project is about $750 million. So what that tells us is that until such time as this project moves forward and to raise the levees and do the other improvements, this additional $750 million worth of land and buildings is potentially subject to the new FEMA floodplain maps and the requirement to purchase flood insurance.
Okay, so 1,300 structures. And then how much is the FEMA flood insurance? It's today's rate, and then there's a future rate. Do we know the future rate yet?
Yeah, the today's rate that I have is for a residential, for a $100,000 house, it's going to be about $1,000. And I don't have any figures for non-residential property because it really varies so much, but that number would go up substantially after the new maps are adopted. And we're actually still working with FEMA to try to come up with an actual schedule in 2009 of when these new maps might be brought forward to the City Council for approval. But all the public meetings that we've had with people, we've told them that we're trying to get this flood control project done as quickly as we can to reduce the potential amount of time that people might be impacted by the mapping changes.
Further questions? Joe?
Well, regardless of what you read, I think this is a good project. The other thing that I have a concern about is the length of time that the federal government will pay us back and what the interest is going to be on that bond. Frankly, the bond market's not real strong, and I'm a little concerned about the interest rate and if there's a way for us to do something different than to work with what you're projecting as an interest rate.
Well, first, if you're looking at the interest rate that's in the ordinance, that would not be the overall interest rate. That would be a catastrophic scenario if we hit that. I think there's two pieces to this. One is Mr. Cotter did the work with the Corps of Engineers, and he can explain that process. And then I can explain the possibilities of funding the thing with different bonding processes.
If I can follow up, Mark, is this a project that we design and engineer, or is this something that the Corps of Engineer builds their own standards that we have to follow?
Yes and yes. The 41st Street Bridge is under the city's design umbrella, and we will contract direct with a consultant and work to find the best design. Now, when it's the levee system, that is the Corps of Engineers, that's under their umbrella, and they're doing their design for that, as well as the dam that is just upstream of the confluence. So it's the city has a significant portion, which is raising the 41st Street Bridge, and that also allows us to open up to the best design standards in the surrounding states, not necessarily just what's allowed by the South Dakota DOT.
And my last question, again, to Gene, I'm sorry to go back and forth, is the issue of the reimbursement from the federal government?
We plan on going back and forth, so that's okay. We're exploring different alternatives right now. The issue that we have that's going to be a challenge is when the Corps of Engineers money comes into this project. We don't know how much and when we're going to get it, and that causes some consternation as far as how we can deal with that money when it does come in. So we've got a number of alternatives that we're exploring. The other piece, there's another alternative that we're exploring. It's a possibility. You have the bridge, which is kind of a nice package, $12 million deal. That could be put together as a bond issue, be nice and clean and vanilla, because the bridge is there. The city's got to pay for that anyhow. The $26 million for the levies, again, we don't know where we know where it's coming from, where it should come from, but we don't know how much and when, and that causes difficulties there. And we're going to have to find a scenario to deal with redeeming bonds as the money comes in from the Corps of Engineers. But that we're working with Public Financial Management, PFM, to explore several different scenarios to see what we can do to make that a workable process.
I think that's Gene, isn't it? I think because it's been approved, and so it'd be what Congress appropriates for the project.
That's right.
So it'd be Congress, they'll appropriate.
What we have with the Corps of Engineers is a letter that, if you paraphrase it, basically says if Congress appropriates money for this project, we'll pass it on to you.
So there's no guarantee that they will make annual payments?
There's no guarantee.
Nothing guaranteed.
So, Gene, you're a betting man, right? What do you think the odds are of us getting repaid?
I think they're pretty good. And the reason I do is President-elect Obama is putting together a hefty package with a lot of money in it. And indeed, there's an article out there that there's $45 billion scheduled for the Corps of Engineers out of $750 billion or something like that, some huge number. And the criteria that probably is most useful to us, as I understand it, Mark, the engineering in that is basically done. I mean, we can be moving dirt the 1st of June, somewhere in that time frame. Right now, the way the time frames lay out on this project for the bonds, we will issue and actually settle with the bonds the second week in March. 2 weeks after that, the money would immediately go to the Corps of Engineers, and about 2 weeks after that, they can start spending it.
Mark, if I can follow up, what are we hearing from our congressional delegation?
Mark, first of all, why don't you talk about when we went out there? I mean, we just scored just barely under because they only had X number of dollars, but our project was right up there with, a
That's
good
right.
project.
I'll touch on that first, Mayor. First of all, the Corps of Engineers, we did go back out there this last April, and I think it'll be interesting with your support that with a meeting with the headquarters, and a year later we'll actually be bidding the sequence of projects that will get this done. They do look at what they call benefit cost ratios as they rank projects, and the closer you get them completed, the higher your ratio goes up. And their intent is that, first of all, they made it clear to us that they have not funded a new project for the previous 3 years. And so in their words, they're committed to the project, but funding is always an issue. And so our delegation is certainly going to continue to have to lift some heavy weight to get appropriations each year. But what we're hearing this year is that the design has been continuing, and so we still have dollars from previous appropriations that will be ready for construction, and that's about $750,000. And then this year, the Senate side has $4 million. The House side has zero, but our senators believe there's a good chance that those dollars will stay. And so we, with this new administration coming in, if the bill gets signed as it's currently wrote today, we could start off with a federal appropriation of about $5 million here in about April, which immediately starts to take off the need of this $38 million. And so, and I think that's the other sort of key flexibility that we need, is that the time frame of the city budget, federal government budget, and the ideal construction time frame in South Dakota, trying to meld those three together can't be done so very easily. And so a bond will provide at least some flexibility to start issuing and bidding key projects, get them in the South Dakota construction time frame, and then each year work hard with the delegation to get those congressional ads to get the project funded and completed.
And they like to get them finished once they get as far along, so, you know, I guess you don't know, but that's what you kind of hope for. Kermit?
Yeah, Mark, can you say something about the increase in the flood control project from $22 million to, what is it now, $26 million?
Well, at this point, we've got, and please understand too, with the Corps of Engineers doing the majority of this design, and as they finalize their design, their estimates get closer. And so we've also seen the estimates change over the last 18 months, and over this last year, we've seen differences. And so the projects as they're currently forecasted, each month that we get closer, they refine their cost estimates. But their costs have gone up as inflation has gone up. I also, based on what we're seeing in our bidding climate, even of recent, that I would expect that we're going to see some very competitive bids for this next year. And so timing is what I would expect very good to be bidding. And I think if with your support, the first bid letting that the Corps will go into is in late April. One of the key tasks that we have, as I talk to the Corps about 3 times a week, is we'll be sourcing the local contractors to look at what are reasonably sized projects and good sequence-wise. The ones that we want to make sure that we're far enough away from the 41st Street Bridge with those levee raisings, which would be on both banks, on the west bank, north and south of 41st Street, and then on the east side, north of 41st, as all that activity has to occur, and that's the best access point. We've got to get that work done first, and then position it to construct the bridge in 2010.
Pat?
This question is for Gene or Mark or even the mayor. I'm just curious, are we at all putting ourselves at risk for not getting reimbursed by the federal government by funding this in advance? Is that just completely not a concern? I mean, are they going to take a look at it and say, well, this community was able to do it on their own. We've got other communities that don't.
The project is out there, and it has been worked on, and there's been a lot of money spent on it. I can't imagine that they would stop in the middle of it and just leave it sit there.
And you're talking, when we up front, you're talking about.
Right.
And we went through this whole thing, and we met with the Corps out there and talked to them, and they really like this concept. And so that's why Mark has been down to Omaha and met with the Corps down there. I've sent letters out there so that we have everything coordinated, and we got all the approvals, and we went to was it Woodley? Woodley? And so the only drawback you could have probably now is if Congress didn't fund it. But they like the program that we've got, and they approved it all the way up. It took a lot of work to get it approved, but we got it approved all the way through. So I don't think that'd be the case on that, Pat.
Okay. I just a couple follow-up questions on the bond itself. Are we fixing the, whether or not we're going to go for a fixed rate or a variable rate? Is that a decision that comes later, or how does?
Well, we've got a lot of work to do between now and March when this thing settles, and how we deal with this money coming in from the Corps is the sticky part. That's really going to be a challenge. There's a good chance that there would be some floating rate parts to that transaction. As I said earlier, we've got to decide whether we're going to do it as one big deal at $38 million or do it in two smaller deals, one plain vanilla, one's going to be a little more complex. We've got a lot of scenarios we got to work through before now and then.
Well, we're going to have second reading on January 5th, and we're going to have any more of those details ironed out before January 5th, or do we have any further action on it? Or if we voted on the 5th and we authorize it, then we're out of the loop, and who makes those decisions at that time?
We will have a lot more information by January 5th.
Will we take action? Well, I mean,
We're looking at bringing council in on to the informational meeting to talk to you about that and go through everything that we're going to have worked through. So
Both PFM and Betsy Abbey will be here on the 5th to answer any questions that you might have.
well, I guess the concern for me is that, you know, that this is a pretty big decision, and we're in some pretty rough economic waters here, and you're asking us to take the information on January 5th at 4 o'clock and make a decision on January 5th at 7 o'clock on a $38 million bond.
We've got things we can do between now and then. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some information to you before that actual 5th day. We will be able to.
Okay.
go ahead, Bob.
I think the answer to that, Pat, might be we've deferred things before, and you know, as I'm listening to this, the interest rate is a very important thing. You know, I mean, and the payback is a very important thing that we have to deal with, and the flood insurance is a very important thing. But we can't take our eye off the ball. The people in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, last year never thought that they would have duck boats going through their downtown with the police force in it. You know, so we got to remember that this is flood control, and that if somehow something happens in the next couple of years and we haven't got something done because we're worried about, and I'm not saying they're not important details, but the cost of having a flood out there by that mall area is going to far outweigh anything that we're talking about here today.
Okay, we've got. Go ahead.
Just one more item on schedule. If you have some specific questions ahead of that date, we can certainly do our best to follow up. I think one of the keys, as I look through the schedule that's been provided from the Corps, that they have a fairly they've got a time frame established. Even if we open bids in late April, they don't expect to issue a notice to proceed until June 5th. And so the schedule will be critical just in trying to maximize this first year's construction activity, but certainly want to make sure your questions are answered.
Okay, we've got. Can we get a motion to approve? It'd be items 22 through 24. We withdrew 25, so then it'd be 26 through 30 to set the hearing date for January 5th for those items.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make that motion, but if I may, one of the things I'd like from Mark and Gene on the bonding issue would be some sort of a time frame so that we can understand all the different schedules of the financing and the construction issues.
We can
make it as simple as possible for us.
We'll email that information to you within a day or two. We've got the two schedules we've got to meld together. We have a schedule for issuing the bonds, and then we have Mark's schedule, so we can just meld those two together and send that to you by the middle of the week.
Thank you.
Could I just ask one more question, Mayor?
Yeah.
What would be the next thing that we approve this on January 5th? What would be the next thing that we would be asked to approve in relationship to the 41st Street Bridge or the flood control project?
After the, if we pass the ordinance and as is, after January 5th, there really wouldn't be any responsibility for the council to take action on anything from that point on.
Mayor, we do have one other item. The project coordination agreement, that is the legal document between the Omaha District Office and the city. There is an amendment going forward in that states this clause about accelerated funding. And so the Omaha office is working on that draft language. They're getting it through headquarters legal. And so that's not necessarily connected to the bond, but it's a part of going forward. And so we need to bring that through as a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign that document. So you will be seeing that. It will state that there is risk, just like anything. But again, if they keep to benefit cost ratios. They're committed to the project, and our congressional delegation can get this done. I think we'll have a successful finish.
Just a comment, Gene, if you can pull together information or that visit from PFM and Betsy Abbey before the 5th, I'd certainly entertain a special meeting. This is a big enough deal that we need time for consideration.
We'll do our best to do that.
Okay, we got a motion been made by Benega to approve items 22 through 24, and then 26 through 30, with getting some information on 30. Is there a second to that?
Second, Jameson.
Jameson seconded. Further comments on the motion to set the hearing date for items 22 through 24, and then 26 through 30 for January 5th? All in favor will vote yes, those opposed no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
All members present voted. The hearing date has been set for January 5th for those items, 7 yes and 1 excused. Let's go to 31.
Item 31 is a resolution to approve one historical marker on city property, Philander Prescott Falls Park.
Good evening, Erica Beck, City Planning Office. This is a resolution to allow for the placement of a historic marker on city property. Marker is titled Philander Prescott. This marker was approved by both the Park and Rec Board and the Board of Historic Preservation, and it will be located just west of the Queen Bee Mill in Falls Park. Staff is recommending approval.
Questions of Eric on item 31. Others wish to address the council? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Brown.
Brown moves. Is there a second?
Benega.
Benega seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of approving item 31 will vote yes, those opposed no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 31 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 32.
Item 32 is a resolution creating Sioux Falls Tax Increment District Number 9.
Good evening, Erica Beck again with the City Planning Office. Tonight I'm presenting for your consideration the establishment of Sioux Falls' 9th Tax Increment District boundary. For clarification, the establishment of a tax increment financing district requires both the approval of a boundary and a finance plan. So tonight I'm just presenting for your consideration the boundary only. Just as a reminder to the City Council and for the public at home, Sioux Falls utilizes tax increment financing as an incentive for the redevelopment of our community's core. By establishing the boundary for the TIF district, the assessed valuation of the district is then frozen for a period of time that's defined by the TIF plan, which in this case we'll be presenting to the City Council for further consideration probably around March or April of 2009. Any redevelopment that then occurs within the TIF district boundary after the establishment will increase the assessed valuation, which is then considered the increment. The increment can then be utilized to reimburse different public eligible expenses that can be that can include but won't be limited to site preparation, utility relocation, the remediation of environmental contamination, and then the construction of public facilities. The City of Sioux Falls has used TIF in a fairly conservative manner. The city has had a total of 8 tax increment financing districts since 1989, 4 of which are now dissolved. The city utilizes TIF for different purposes. TIF 9 specifically relating to the purpose of stimulating economic development in the community by assisting projects that promote long-term economic vitality and competitive growth within our community's core. The approximate boundaries of this proposed TIF district are 8th Street on the north, 10th Street on the south, Main Avenue on the west, and then the middle of the Big Sioux River on the east. And I apologize because those are just approximate boundaries. It's kind of hard to describe those on this map. Specific purpose of this district establishment, I want to talk just a little bit about that. The City of Sioux Falls, through the Walker parking study that was completed in 2007, identified this general geographic area of downtown Sioux Falls as an ideal location for the construction of a future parking facility that could and would not only support future economic development and growth within downtown, but also could serve as a replacement parking structure when the removal of the river ramp was completed. The City Planning Office and public parking offices have been collaboratively working with all of the entities within this proposed TIF district boundary on the potential construction of a parking facility within this identified boundary. Due to due to some of the sensitive nature of the discussions that we're currently undertaking with these entities within this boundary, we're not necessarily prepared to provide any further details on the development of the parking structure at this time. However, we do realize that that's very important, and we want to make sure that the City Council understands that we will be bringing those back to both the Fiscal Committee and the City Council for further consideration when we present the tax increment finance plan. We would, again, anticipate doing that within the next 2 or 3 months, probably around March of 2009. Both Mike Cooper and myself had an opportunity to meet with the Fiscal Committee on December 3rd regarding this proposed tax increment district boundary, as well as the Downtown Development Committee, specifically on December 9th, again regarding this proposed boundary. Based on those meetings and then the consistency of this proposed TIF boundary with both our 2015 downtown plan and our 2015 growth management plan, staff is recommending approval of this resolution, approving the tax increment finance district.
Questions, Erica, on item number 32?
Erica, the basic reason for doing this now is to establish 2008 as the tax base. Is that correct? I understand all the financial issues haven't been agreed upon and the exchanges and all those kind of things, but that's the basic reason for bringing this to us right now?
Yes, absolutely. We want to establish an assessed valuation so that we can move forward with the entities within this district to develop a plan.
Further questions? Greg?
Just for my own knowledge, how long do these TIFs usually last? You said the term will be determined later, but how long have they lasted in the past?
Per state statute, they can last 20 years. That's how long that you have after the establishment of the TIF district to actually complete your expenditures and pay the debt from those expenditures. In the past, we've had varying TIF districts as far as length. I think the first one, which was TIF 1, which encompassed the entire downtown area, lasted about 10 years. So it just depends on the assessed valuation and how that increases. And we use a fairly conservative figure when we're working on that within the plan. So we always, in the past, I should say, we've ended up in a fairly good position as far as them ending sooner than we've projected.
Further questions of Kenny?
So right now, we don't know as far as number-wise what we're giving up here, and we're not going to know how long this is going to be a TIF also?
No, we'll be presenting that to you when we bring forward a plan for your consideration. We'll have all of the details laid out in that plan.
Further questions?
I guess but right now, you're asking for us to create this TIF.
You'll create the boundary tonight if you
Just the
approve
boundary.
this resolution, and that'll freeze the assessed valuation. We'll then send this boundary to the State Department of Revenue, and they'll send us official record back stating what the assessed valuation will be, and then we can work with that number when we're developing the plan.
Further questions? Others that wish to address the council on item number 32? Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval, Benninga.
Benninga moves. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. Further comments on the motion to approve item 32? Seeing none in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
All members present vote. Item 32 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 33.
Item 33 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a conditional gifting agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and Sioux Empire Baseball Association for a grandstand with other improvements to be located at Harmondon Park.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Dave Fisher, Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation. Hard to think about sunshine and baseball, but if we do, maybe it'll keep us warm while our cars are warming up in the parking lot. The resolution before you tonight allows the city to enter into a gifting agreement whereby the Sioux Empire Baseball Association would design, construct, and gift to the city certain improvements on the championship field at Harmondon Park. The existing facility, which is on the screen right now, consists of one 10-row bleacher and two 5-row bleachers, which seat approximately 150 to 175 spectators. The proposed improvements consist of a covered grandstand area with seat-back chairs and also two bleacher seat wings, which would together have the ability to seat approximately 890 spectators. Additionally, a press box and a building under the grandstands with team rooms, umpire rooms, an administration room, shower room and restroom area would be provided. The estimated cost of the improvements is approximately $750,000. The purpose of the project is to provide additional amenities at Harmadon Parks Championship Field, not only for the youth of Sioux Falls to use, but also to make Harmadon more desirable as a host site for major state, regional, and national tournaments. The approval of the agreement will allow Sioux Empire Baseball to seek potential donors for the project who may be interested in securing naming rights to the improvements as one method of fundraising. The donors will be secured conditioned upon final approval of the council for naming rights. The park board has seen the agreement, recommends approval, as does staff. Also, I would say Lyle Smith, the executive director of Sioux Empire Baseball, is here tonight to help answer any questions you may have. And with that, I'd be happy to try to address any questions you have.
Kenny.
First, it's a beautiful design. Is the press box going to be ADA accessible?
Yes, it would be. In the agreement, we specify that the improvements need to be ADA accessible.
Yes, Dave, is there anything in the agreement whereby the city has to spend any money?
No, the improvements are to be provided at no cost to the city.
Further questions? Others who wish to address the council on item number 33?
I just have a brief comment because Lyle's here. My son has been involved in SEBA for 3 years, and that is such a phenomenal program that he has developed over, I don't know how long he's been working at it, but we've been in it for 3 years. And I know this is geared probably towards the kids that are a little bit further along, but the work that he puts into it and the results that come out of it, I think, are really spectacular, and I sure appreciate his efforts.
Further, go ahead.
Just to piggyback on Councilman Costello, Lyle, since I met you, you've done a great job. I think Harmadon is a wonderful addition to the city, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Further comments? If not,
I just want to follow up and say the same thing. This is a wonderful partnership with city-owned property, and it's just a great opportunity for the community to see what can happen when people do get together to make things happen, and it sounds like Pat's going to be your first donor, so that's good.
Foot field.
do we have a motion to approve?
So move, Anderson.
Anderson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Let's second it.
I'm going to reallocate my money that I give to the Center for Active Generations.
Okay, we got a motion made and seconded to approve item 33. Further comments? Seeing none, all in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
All members present vote. Item 33 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 34.
Item 34 is a resolution approving the 2009 audit program.
Rich Oaksall, lead internal auditor for the City of Sioux Falls. And just as a background for what you're being asked to do tonight, we have an audit charter which was approved by resolution back in 2006, and that is basically our marching orders. It gives us our purpose, our scope, our authority, our reporting structure, and also explains what we're not allowed to do. And so that's basically what we go by is that audit charter. We also use the what we call the Red Book, which is very exciting reading. If you guys want some entertaining reading, you can have a copy of this. I'll lend that to you. It's the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing, and this is what, when we get audited, and that question comes up, who audits the auditors? Other auditors, they come in every 5 years. You're supposed to have a peer review, and they base their review upon the Red Book. So we try to tailor our operations to be in compliance with the standards. And I, as lead auditor, one of my jobs is to assist the audit committee with coming up with this annual audit plan, which you'll be asked to approve. And the way I start is we have to come up with what we call an audit universe, and that's a list of activities, departments, or processes, or contracts that we that would be potentially auditable. That could be a major revenue source like property tax. That's an audit we did this year. It could be a department like water, which we did this year. It could be a contract or an agreement. We have hundreds of those. Or it could be a process or an activity that crosses departmental boundaries, like accounts payable, which we did this year. And then we look, once we have that audit universe, then we look at things like what are the dollar expenditures, what's the public interest, what's the elected officials' interest in this area, do we have a history of past problems, is there potential for cost recovery? So we kind of weigh all those things together, and we come up with our proposed audit plan. And we present that to the audit committee. They discuss it, they review it, and then they endorse it, and then we're at this stage in the process where we come before you and we have the proposed 2009 audit plan. We have a number of different audits here. On the second page, we list 4 operational audits. We are listing the pension system, water reclamation, environmental health, and information technology. And what we do in our operational audit, we focus upon the internal control structure. And if we have a good internal control structure, we're going to have reliable financial reporting. We'll be meeting organizational goals. We'll be in conformity with laws and policies. So that's what we focus on in operational audits. On the third page, we have several compliance audits. Compliance audits are simply to determine if the contracting party we're engaged in business with is meeting the terms of the contract or the agreement. We're going to do the convention center follow-up audit. We've completed that audit. You'll be seeing that report, I think, next month. And we had a number of findings on that report. So we'll be going back sometime later in 2009 to see that they've corrected some of those audit findings. And then we also have another agreement with Second Chance Rescue Center, which provides the animal shelter for the city, and so we'll be reviewing that contract. Also on page 3, we do a number of what we call revenue or cash handling audits, and we try to do about 2 to 4 of those a year. For next year, we're going to do fire rescue, just the cash handling, and also the parks and recreation, the cash handling. On page 4, we have a couple of process audits or multi-department audits. We're going to look at the special assessment process, and that's how we finance sidewalks, curb and gutter, and various improvements. And then we also will look at citywide disbursements. We'll pick a sample of disbursements to see that they were properly supported, authorized, et cetera. We try to do at least one revenue audit every year. This year we did the property tax audit. Next year we're planning to do the cable TV franchise fee to see that we're getting the revenue that is due to us. And then we try to do a number of construction contract audits every year. We tend to focus on the higher dollar construction contract audits and determine that we're paying the correct contract price, that we're meeting the completion dates, that the contracts were properly let, that the change orders were properly executed. And we have a number of other projects that we have on page 5 and page 6 there. If you have any questions on any of the audits or any of the other information, I'll be happy to answer those questions at this time.
Questions, Rich?
Rich, on the revenue audit for Mid-Continent Communications, since we're in negotiations with them, is it appropriate to do it now or wait till that is over?
I think it would be appropriate to wait till that's over. We would be auditing the past years, but I think since that'd be a sensitive, when we're doing negotiations with them, I think we would probably hold off on the timing of that until that is completed.
Okay.
Unless the council directs me otherwise, of course. So.
All right.
That was my thinking on that one. So.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah.
Yes. Rich, when was the last time we audited Midco?
We hired, my understanding, I believe in about 2003 or 2004, the city had hired a consulting group to do that audit. I think they are based out of Virginia, and they didn't have any significant findings at that time, but that was the last time I think that type of audit has been done.
Okay.
So it's been probably about 4 or 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Further questions of Rich? Thank you very much, Rich.
Thank you.
Others? Is there a motion to approve item 34?
So move, Costello.
Costello moves. Is there a second?
Second, let's
second it. Further comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, Rich. This is what we're going to improve for tonight, but next year, you can go ahead and you're authorized to do some special auditing?
Yes,
Can
yes.
you explain how that
We have a
works?
process for that. The audit committee has directed me to not book all of our time, that we try to keep about 10% of our time open for special requests or quick response audits. And we have a procedure for that where say an elected official or a director would want this project done, they would ask the audit committee, and I could help them with that request, and we try to put it in writing, and the audit committee would discuss that request, and then they would approve that or disapprove that.
In the past, have you done many of those?
We have done, the first one we did was requested by the city attorneys. It was at the completion of the Sheraton contract with the convention center, and that was approved, and we did that report. We had your request, and we had Bob Litz's request this year. So we've had 3 so far.
And of those 3, one was approved or 2 were approved?
2 were approved.
2 were approved.
Yes.
Okay.
Further comments? We got a motion made and seconded to approve item number 34. All in favor? Yes. Opposed? No.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes. Item 34 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 35.
Item 35 is a resolution approving the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and Local 814 of the International Association of Firefighters.
Mr. Mayor, Councilors, Bill O'Toole, Human Resources. This item is a resolution adopting the labor agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and the International Association of Firefighters, Local 814. It is a 3-year agreement for 2009 through 2011, and we'll keep it brief. We're here to answer any questions. Fire Chief Hill is here as well to answer any questions you might have on this item.
Questions of Bill on item number 35.
Yeah, Bill, can you give us the details on percentage increase and how much that's going to cost the city?
If you're just talking about the cost of living increases tied to those particular years, it's 3% for each of those years, and about $384,000 approximately.
And then also just the natural progression up the steps. How much is that going to cost?
That's part of, that includes the cost of living and the step movement.
Oh, okay. $384,000.
Other questions of Bill? Others who wish to address the council on item number 35? Not?
Yeah, I'm trying, if I could just ask another. I'm trying to recall the reopening. When does that possibly take place?
It would take place in 2009 as it relates to the outcome of the comp and benefit study that will be completed in May of 2009 for implementation in 10. If that was the way it would work, for implementation in 2010.
Okay.
There's a second one. If they don't agree on the program.
Yes.
Yes, it
Yeah,
could be at January.
there was another provision on an unrelated matter, but I think you were getting to the opener as it related to wages, if I understood you correctly.
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay.
Can you say that again, though? I didn't.
They have the ability to exercise a reopener in 2009 to discuss the wages based on the completed wage and benefit study that will be completed in May of 2009.
Now, is that, they're able to do that, but can the city also do that, too?
No, the current language as it was constructed
So
wouldn't
they're the
allow
only
us
ones
to-
that can reopen that,
Yes.
not us.
That's correct.
Further questions, item 35. Motion to approve.
Move to approve. Brown.
Brown moves. Is there a second?
Anderson.
Who second? Okay, Anderson seconded it. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve item 35, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes. All members present have voted. Item 35 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 excused. Is there a motion to adjourn? Benega moves. Is there a second?
Second. Jamison.
Jameson second. All in favor? Vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.